Greetings, humans. You have entered the Command Zone, your destination for all aspects of Elder Dragon Highlander. Enjoy your stay.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a very special episode of the Command Zone podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Weeks.
What's up? I'm Jimmy Wong.
How's it? It's Josh Lee Kwai. Look at us. Where are we?
A brand new studio for now.
Look at this.
It's cool. We've got some orange, we've got some blue, we've got three hosts.
Weren't just locked in this room accidentally. We're figuring stuff out over here.
Oh, yeah. Let's not talk about that. Yeah, we've moved to our new offices. We're in our new space. There's probably going to be some plans for how to show that off to you eventually, but I'll just be candid. We don't have any plans for anything besides unpacking at the moment. That's the only thing I can think about besides this year in review episode.
Yeah, which is the final podcast episode of 2023. It's a big one.
Yeah, we are going to go over all the highs and lows of 2023, all the sets, all of the most controversial moments, all of the new cards, and we're going to break down our favorite moments and our least favorite moments of the year.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite episodes every year, and it's always very popular. It's good to recap. You know, there's always things I forget about.
Yeah. And you get to hear a lot of unfiltered opinions, too. We usually don't talk about, like, controversies and stuff on the show, but
we save it for this episode.
Yeah, we save it for this episode. We wait till the end of the year, so we got a nice backlog of all of them. We're also going to talk about what we want to see in 2024, but before we get into any of that, we got to talk about our sponsors, because we've also had a great year of sponsorships, including the one and only cardkingdom.com/command, because in the whole year, boy, a lot of cards have been released. You're going to want to add those cards to your decks. You're going to want to maybe sell your cards at Card Kingdom. Whatever you do, make sure you use the affiliate link, cardkingdom.com/command, to access their huge inventory, all of their Magic products, singles, sealed, and more. And of course, when you order from Card Kingdom, we love it because it's convenient and super easy to get one package with all of your cards arriving at your doorstep. So you can just sleeve that up, get ready to play with your brand new Commander deck. And there's undoubtedly going to be some cards that we mentioned in this episode that you're going to go, wow, that's a card? I didn't even know that existed. Well, you can probably find it at cardkingdom.com/command and add it to your collection.
And once those cards are in your hand, you're going to need to protect them. Go to ultrapro.com/command for the highest quality Magic accessories in the business. If you need sleeves or playmats, deck boxes, if you need ways to sort your collection, if you need wall scrolls or plushes, you can find it all on ULTRAPRO. And it's all going to be Magic themed because they have the officially licensed Magic art, including all of the awesome sets that came out this year. Today we're sporting the Lost Caverns of Ixalan playmats. They're unbelievable. They've released so much awesome art this year, and so much of it went through ULTRAPRO. Anytime I see a cool card, I go straight to ULTRAPRO and see if they have it on a playmat, and you should too.
And of course, the final way to support all of our content is directly if you go to patreon.com/command zone. We give out all kinds of cool perks and rewards to our patrons. So one of the things they get is access to exclusive content like Turn Talk, access to game nights and extra turns earlier than the general public, access to us because we're on our Discord all the time answering questions and hanging out with our patrons. So if you want to join our community, support our content, patreon.com/command zone.
They even get a little shout out in this episode because they got to pick something for one of the topics we're going to talk about, right?
That's true. We do polls.
We polled our patrons for a lot of the things that we're going to talk about today just to see what their take was on the year as well. Plus, we shout out one lucky patron every single podcast episode, and this is a big one. So shout out to James Lovengood. James, you rock.
You rock. You definitely rock. You got it 3 times there, James. You got your money's worth. Yeah, value.
Plus, you got the whole year dedicated to you. I don't know. I think that's
pretty cool. Is that how that works?
I think so.
Wow. He gets like 50 episodes of the podcast, 60 episodes of the podcast dedicated to him. Great.
All right, let's jump into it here. The 2023 year in review. Today we're talking about the highs and lows of 2023, the best Magic cards of the year, the biggest controversies, the successes, the failures.
The highs and the lows.
Yeah, we're going to cover everything from the MTG Ambassador Program to the Pinkertons,
Whoa.
if you get that reference.
Favorite Weezer album.
Yeah. To the Stone Coil Serpent that WotC had to censor. I actually forgot about this, and Rachel brought it up. I was like, oh, yeah.
I wrote it down.
I forgot about that.
I wrote it down.
I'll never forget that little guy.
But before we get to all of those, we want to run through 2023 and just recap what happened this year by products. It's a great way to look back and be like, where did 2023 start? Because we did cover a lot of ground this year.
Yep.
Starting with Dominaria Remastered. This was a Dominaria nostalgia set. It was all reprints. It was all located in Dominaria. And it was awesome. I mean, they had retro frame stuff for a lot of classic Commander staples, which is a big deal for me.
The next set of the year was Phyrexia, All Will Be One. This was on February 3rd and was kind of the, I want to say, later? Empire Strikes Back of this storyline.
Yeah. The Phyrexians being the big bad. There was a lot of Phyrexian this year. That's notable as well.
Yeah, this one was from the perspective of the bad guys.
Yeah.
We saw like more Phyrexia than we've seen in, a decade?
Yeah.
It was really cool.
It was gross. It was really icky.
It was very Phyrexian. Very slick.
This one came with 2 precons, the red-white tokens one, and then there was an Abzan Toxic deck.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And then I liked, this was my favorite like special foil version of the year. They had the oil slick foils, those really sweet looking lands too.
Reminded me of the old Comic-Con promos.
Yeah, oh man. Oh yeah, exactly.
A little more legible, but...
A little more legible.
No, yeah, it's like they fixed the old Comic-Con promos.
Yeah, not as legible as the Phyrexian text cards, which I don't actually like because when you own one of these, you don't play it.
Yeah.
Because you need to have a phone or a printout nearby to know what it actually does.
Oh boy. The set that came out after that, is the 3rd episode of the Star Wars trilogy, I guess. It's March of the Machine. Nice. So this is when like the Phyrexian War came to a head. All of the planes united to fight the big bads.
It was Avengers Endgame as well.
Yeah.
They wanted it to be, I mean.
For sure. I mean, everybody came through portals to like, it was, they literally was a scene.
Instead of the good guys coming through portals, the bad guys came through the portals.
Right.
They just flipped it. That was it, yeah. And that was April 21st.
Yeah, but a lot of our classic planes got ravaged. I think it changed a ton for stories, but also a new card type. We had battles for the first and apparently the last time.
No, they're going to do it again.
I hope so, yeah.
Did they say
now?
that?
No, I mean for now, right?
Oh, the way you said it, I was like, did they make an announcement I'm not aware of?
Like, we killed battles immediately.
There are some good battles.
Yeah,
I'm actually surprised at how good some of the battles are. I thought we'd see them almost never. We definitely do see them.
Yeah.
So that's cool. The new card type came on the scene and did make an impact.
Yep.
And this was also where we saw the team up commanders, where they put 2 characters together,
like beloved
one legendary creature.
Power creep at its finest, just more text.
2 in 1. This also had 5 precons.
Right.
This was the most precons that came with any set this year. There was Call for Backup, with Cavalry Charge, which is the Knights one, Divine Convocation, which is a Convoke deck, Growing Threat, which was Phyrexians and Artifact creatures, and Tinker Time, which was like Artifact tokens.
It also had the bonus sheet of Multiverse Legends, and we're going to see a lot of these bonus sheets coming up in some of the sets, which is just another way to spice up the draft format, because I think a lot of people consider March of the Machine the best draft format, I think, of the year.
It was wild. I mean, it was definitely the most creative, I thought.
Yeah.
Like, in terms of deck building and drafting.
You could have a Lurie in your draft or whatever, and then build a whole deck around
They liked the bonus sheet, I remember hearing a lot. I unfortunately didn't get to draft this one much because we were so busy with another set we're about to talk about. Not the next one.
Not the next one. No.
I was going to say.
Let's talk about the next one first. Yeah, sorry. That I'm not referring to. Oh, boy, I made it confusing. All right, the next one, not the one I was referring to just now, was March of the Machine at the Aftermath.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh as I said that. It came out May 12th. This was a controversial one because it had those small little packs.
Teeny-weeny packs.
Yeah, teeny-weeny
It
little
was
packs.
a small set. How many cards are in this set?
50 cards.
So only 50 cards total.
Yeah.
And every pack had only 5 cards in it.
Yeah.
But they were priced the same as regular booster packs.
And there were collector boosters for it too, for some ridiculous reason.
Like, I saw some of this product get opened. Like, my buddy bought a box, and I was like, wow, you were so optimistic. What a sweethart.
Same
and he
card
opened it, and he just kept opening repeats. He's like, I have 4 of this legend.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
There's only 50 cards. What are you going to open? They're the same cards.
What are you going to do?
Okay, so next is the set I was referring to about why I was busy when March of the Machines came out. Everybody remembers that conversation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was...
Da-da-da.
We all forgot about Aftermath.
Yeah.
It was Lord of the Rings. Tales of
Yeah.
Middle-earth.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the biggest set of the year by a long shot.
Maybe by what I've heard, the biggest set in the history of Magic.
Yeah.
I
mean,
think
it
so.
certainly had the most news coverage in the outside world. There was
And the way that people inside Wizards, I didn't hear anything explicitly. The way they refer to it, though, makes it seem to me as if it was like sort of the biggest money-making set of all time as well. The highest
feels
selling
like
anyway.
it. Yeah. I mean, it had the one ring for the biggest part of the news, the one of one ring. But they also had all the CRLI soul rings that were all based on the different rings that were given to the men, the dwarves, and the elves. There was a lot of just sweet stuff in this set.
I wanted to mention that, like, look how tight these release dates were. March of the Machine came out April 21st. May 12th, the March of the Aftermath came out.
Yeah.
And then right on top of that, June 23rd was the biggest set that they started spoiling, on top of the release of March of the Machine.
Yeah.
I remember. That's
Aftermath.
why we couldn't, I didn't get to draft March of the Machine at all. Basically one time, I think, ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we were so heavy into the next stuff so quickly that it was just no time to breathe. And I can't imagine over at Wizards how that was for their marketing departments and everybody else with those
for
release
marketing,
dates.
yeah.
But they did a great job. Lord of the Rings came off really, really well. Aftermath, I think they stumbled in there, and maybe it was because they had to jump and you worry about the next big set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings was enormous. It came with 4 precons that all were extremely popular, with the exception of the Elven Council.
Yeah.
And there was Food and Fellowship, which was Hobbits and Food, Hosts of Mordor, which is the bad guys, and Riders of the Rohan, which is the Jeskai humans deck.
Yep.
Yeah, this was sweet. It almost felt like there's an entirely different team at Wizards working solely on this set while everyone else turned away on everything else, because this is a set that's 5-6 years in the making at this point.
Enormous. And the amount of gears that had to turn to make it work in terms of IP and just making sure that they're setting boundaries and they know the material really well and everything.
It's also modern legal, right?
Oh my God. It was awesome. Yeah. We'll talk about Lord of the Rings a lot this episode, I think. Yeah. Soon, it felt like it was sooner than this, but on August 4th, the next set came out, which was Commander Masters.
Yeah, this is the Commander set of the year, but didn't have as many precons as March of the Machine.
It had 4. This was the Eldrazi Unbound, with the colorless deck Enduring Enchantments, which was another Abzan deck, this time Enchantments,
yeah.
Planeswalker Party, which was Jeskai Planeswalkers, and the 5-color Sliver Swarm deck.
What's that?
A bad taste in your mouth?
I think it might be. I think the set might have left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth. And it was for basically one reason, price.
Yep.
It was just twice as expensive for no apparent reason that we could tell.
There's strong.
There's a reason.
There was strong reprints, but I think the timing had a lot to do with how hard we felt the price of Commander Masters, because it came after Aftermath, which everybody was like, "Are you kidding? No."
Yeah.
Same price for 5.
And then and then Lord of the Rings were more expensive, reasonably so, and everyone was like, "Yeah, I'm in. Lord of the Rings, done."
Yeah.
And then they released Commander Masters right after that, and it was even more expensive than Lord of the Rings.
Yep.
And didn't have sort of the wow factor that Lord of the Rings did.
Didn't seem to warrant it. The precons were twice as expensive, but you look at the reprint value and it was about the same, maybe slightly higher than we're used to.
Right.
Yeah, I think this set, honestly, if it would have just been priced at what a normal set would be priced, would have been actually a good product that people are happy about.
Right.
Yeah, because there are tons of reprints in there that all of the free spells, deflecting SWAT, and all those are all in there.
And the reprint value in the precons looks really, really good if they're $45.
Right, but if you're picking them up at 100, then you're
and it sucks.
It's unreasonable.
Yeah. We'll talk more about that again later, I'm sure. But
did anyone even draft it? I drafted it maybe
It was a fun draft format, actually. I thought I liked it.
It was so fun.
Only did it twice.
I really it
But it was $70 to do it.
Yeah.
Rough.
I was going to say, I did it twice. I did it at events where I was like, if I'm going to do it anywhere, I'm doing it at a MagicCon, and it was really fun. It was like you got to partner pair monocolored legends. You got to play really, really busted decks.
But was it 3 or 4 times more fun than our, Wilds of Eldraine draft? No. It's just come on. It felt mean, the price. It felt like they were trying to exploit us a little bit there. I didn't like it. Yeah.
And it feels bad whenever so much work you can tell is put into a set. It's a fun draft format and then doesn't get to get drafted because of all these other factors that are affecting it.
One other factor.
Yeah, one other factor. Well, it felt the same way. For the past couple of years, I feel like every time the Commander set comes out, it's like, and this on top of everything else, I don't have time to even get into this product.
Yeah.
And we're the Commander players, so this feels like the one set that we should be the most excited about.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, that's true. Okay, the next set up was our fall set, Wilds of Eldraine.
Woohoo.
This was Return to the World of Eldraine. It happened on September 8th.
1 month after Commander
I mean, it's basically month after month. I think
Right?
the only month we didn't have something here is July.
We skipped
But
July.
we went from the very end of June to the beginning of August.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it was technically not a month, but 6 weeks.
Yeah.
They gave Lord of the Rings lots of space, and then everything else was squeezed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Wilds of Eldraine had 2 precons, the Fey Dominion precon and the Virtue and Valor deck.
This one came with the Enchanting Tales bonus sheet.
Yeah,
which
all
was super
enchantments.
cool. It was all enchantments. It was similar to the Strixhaven spells sheet.
Yep.
Which were introduced into the draft format, and unfortunately weren't super impactful on the draft format.
No,
but were
only
very
about
fun.
2 of them were actually impactful that you would open.
Yeah, it was interesting. When you were actually drafting, the bonus sheet was disappointing.
Yeah.
But as far as reprints that it gave to us, it was actually kind of good.
Yep.
Yes.
Doubling
So-
things in.
And it
Yep.
definitely made these packs more fun to open. And I think they're looking at the reprints on the Enchanting Tales sheets and the price. Like the reprints in the Enchanting Tales sheets compared to the reprints in Commander Masters,
Yeah.
and the price difference between those packs was just like I could open a doubling season in this pack that's $8.
Yeah, why would you do the
Or,
Commander
like,
Masters one? Yeah,
is
in the
less
pack
than
with
$8.
$4. Yeah.
$4. They also did introduced the anime full art stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Was in Wilds of Eldraine as well.
Yeah, that stuff was actually pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. That was for the Enchanting
Yeah, I like
Tales sheet as well.
All right, the next set after that, Jimmy.
Universes Beyond Doctor Who. Woo-wee-oo. Beep, boop-a-doop. That's the...
We just let him do that.
Yeah. So these were themed cards, just similar to like Lord of the Rings, except it was not modern legal, right? And there were 4 precons, basically all themed around different eras of Doctor Who or the bad guys. There's always like one bad guy precon. So Blast from the Past was like all the old Doctors, Masters of Evil were the bad guys, Paradox Power, and Timey Wimey.
Exterminate.
Exterminate.
This came out, October 13th, just about 1 month after Wilds of Eldraine. Yeah, and this was the first time we had seen the 4 commander decks and the collector booster product.
Oh, right.
Was
Right.
separate from that. So, like, when Warhammer came out, you could either get the Warhammer decks or, like, the Surgefoil Warhammer decks.
Right.
This is, you could get the regular collector booster, or
Regular
commander
commander
decks
or-
or collector packs.
So it's sort of a different distribution method to get foils out there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is the Warhammer, what were they called? Collector's Edition.
Collector's Edition, yeah.
Were very popular
Yes.
and sold for a very high price.
Immediately, yeah.
Yeah, I felt like the collector booster boxes for Doctor Who were not that popular and people weren't clamoring for them as
No.
much. So it feels like they were experimenting a little bit. And I don't know if you could draw anything from 2 data points, but
If they flipped them, maybe, because the Warhammer crossover for people that would play Magic, I think, is way higher than Doctor Who fans in Magic.
yeah.
Because I felt like this time around, when Warhammer came out, I had tons of friends I felt like they were all getting into Magic as a result. The Doctor Who stuff, I had maybe 1 or 2 people that I knew that were like, oh, I'll try this out now. And I'm not sure if they necessarily kept up with it, but it was more kind of like this is like a fun oddity in my Doctor Who fandom.
Yeah, it's interesting. We're going to talk about this a little bit later, but I will say that across the board, our content and everybody else's that I can see in the Magic content creation community, it seemed like interest in the Doctor Who themed videos was a lot lower than your average interest for any other set.
Yeah.
And we've definitely felt that. We had the lowest interest for any video we've probably had since we started for like Doctor Who pre-con stuff. So there's some reasons that might happen again. We'll get into that later, but that was a thing.
The second to final set, I keep trying to
Penultimate?
skip, is
Penultimate, yeah.
the Lord of the Rings holiday re-release.
Yeah.
These were very expensive collector booster packs that basically contain showcase treatments of many of the cards that came out in the original set.
Yeah.
They also released 4 panorama boxes, like full scene arts with like 6 cards each. So I think there was like 24 sets.
Yep, and they had the same
24
thing in the
cards?
original set, but you had to open them. But this time around, you could specifically buy. Actually, I think you could buy them too in the original set, right? All of them.
Well, these were different. They released the panorama boxes that had unique cards that were not in the original set.
Right, yeah.
That you could open in these as well. So there were technically 24 like unique cards that you could open in the holiday product.
Yeah.
And there was also this poster treatment, which is like very sort of
It's like Secret Lair-esque.
Secret Larry. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're really cool, but if they're not your thing, they're super not your thing.
Yeah, it almost impossible to read too.
Yeah, this product was interesting because there's definitely it rings of double feature where they just took a bunch of cards, sort of ran a filter over it, and put a new frame on it,
Yeah.
and then released it. But I think Lord of the Rings was cool enough that we were like, okay,
Fine.
if you say so.
I mean, I think yeah, I have some theories about why this would occur, and it's similar to a double feature last year, which is like I think they probably have quotas for a number of sets they have to release in a year, and in order to hit those quotas, they probably have determined that like we need a remastered set and a sort of reprinty. You know, something that's easy for us to create. We don't have to re-game design a whole new environment. We just take something, carbon copy it, change artwork, you know, window dressing, and this kind of fit that mold. But also, they probably simultaneously knew that Lord of the Rings was going to be a huge set, wanted to be present in the holiday season,
right?
And this is a way to have a holiday product that people can be gifting. So it does make sense, even though, I think if you're around for the Lord of the Rings when it first came out, it's sort of not exactly for you. I mean, it's not like it's totally not for you, but it's like we're trying to have a holiday product here, you know, and trying to rekindle that magic from earlier in June and get it, you know, during the holiday season. So it makes sense from that respect, I think. But from our perspective, it looks a little weird.
It does look weird.
Yeah. I mean, you could go through all the sets and being like, if Wizards had to ink out another set, what would they have done? It's like maybe they would have done like another Doctor Who special thing, right? Like you can kind of feel that extra squeeze. Yeah. But I will say the Panorama Scene cards are pretty sweet. Like Galadriel's Dismissal is a card we'll talk about later on, and they definitely had some impactful cards for Commander there.
Yeah. I wanted to mention that those scene boxes, I loved them, bought them all immediately. I was like, new cards, and you can put them, they have a little art card thing. I opened them, and they are extremely curled, all of them. Ooh. And every picture I've seen of them, they've been very, very curled. And we haven't really had the curling problem this year. So it was very disappointing that this product that was supposed to be like a showcase product, and you like put it in a frame and like display them, didn't look very good.
I always hate that, and it always tends to happen on the cards where it's like the whole point of this card is for me to show off,
right?
And then it's like it looks like crap because it's curled up. So
it was not great. I had to do some real work to make those playable.
Okay,
one more set
left in the year.
It's the Lost Caverns of Ixalan. We're back to Ixalan, similarly how we went back to Eldraine, but this time we're going down into Ixalan, cave diving,
spelunking.
Yeah.
It was the Jurassic Park / World.
That's right.
Pairing.
Yeah.
Kind of like Transformers last year.
With Brothers War. This is the closest these sets have come out, by the way. October 13th was Doctor Who. November 3rd was the holiday re-release. November 17th. They launched Ixalan. This one also had 4 precons: Ahoy Mateys, which was Pirates; Blood Rights, Vampires; Explorers of the Deep was Merfolk; and Velociraptor was Dinosaurs, of course.
Roar. That name.
It's a great name.
Oh my God.
They just went for it, right?
Yep, just go
Same
for
with
it.
Ahoy Mateys. They had special treatments. This was notably a reprint of Cavern of Souls and Mana Crypt, similar to how they did in the ending for Kamigawa.
Yeah, the Hidetsugu thing came back. And then the Jurassic World cards had like super rare ones that came with like a Jurassic emblem stamped on them. Like the D&D ones kind of had a similar thing going on. And those cards look amazing. If you've seen them in person, they're
cool.
Wild.
Yeah, and they're pretty expensive.
Very expensive.
Those are good ones to crack. They're holding their value, which is cool.
Yep.
Okay, so that was November 17th. I don't know if we already said that.
Yep.
So that was the year right there.
That's it. Those are the sets.
11 total releases.
Major product releases. We've sort of alluded to our feelings about the sets throughout the year, but I wanted to actually break down what we think was the worst set of the year for you. We may all have different ones, and we polled our staff here, and we also polled patrons. So we've got a couple of different answers to this question.
Let's start with our staff here.
Yeah.
Okay. What'd they say?
Our staff voted that the worst set of the year for them was Commander Masters. And I think this is really interesting because obviously, if they work on our staff, they're pretty heavily invested Magic players. They know Magic and they know Commander very, very well.
Yep.
And the fact that they picked this set that is like sort of designed for us says a lot.
Is there a group of people on the planet that it's more designed for than our staff?
Yeah. And it's like, so this is my biggest problem with Commander Masters that I think is sort of rings true for the staff is it was a really expensive product, which means that it should be for like whales. But I look at the Commander Masters list of cards and I'm like, I have all these cards. Like I have a Cyclonic Rift, I have 2 Deflecting Swats, I have a Fierce Guardianship, and I'm not gonna, I don't need 10.
That's interesting.
Because it's the kind of power level that I just don't play in all my decks.
Yeah.
So I was like, even if I open some of these big hit cards, I'm not going to be excited because I just don't need another Cyclonic Rift.
So the whales who are willing to spend the amount of money that this set would cost are looking for different cards than what's in there. And the people who would be excited by the cards that are in there aren't whales by definition, or those, otherwise they'd already have the cards, in which case you should probably make a set that's a little bit less expensive for them.
Yeah.
Right.
And then they'd probably be happy with what they got. But they kind of sort of price out the people who should get this, and the people who would normally be in that price range and happy to buy it are like, well, I don't need that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's an interesting way to look at it.
And like the big draw for whales was like, you could get etched foils. And you're like, I hate it.
We don't like
I don't like etched foils.
I don't want it. Get out of here.
There's some full art ones, and you're like, cool, I'll buy that. And then I don't need
Yeah,
to
I need one of it. I think the collector boosters was probably the most disappointing part of Commander Masters.
Yeah.
Because it is really fun for me to buy a collector booster, but I looked at the box and it's thinner.
Yeah.
It's smaller. Everything is just like, why does this cost so much?
Yeah, it was disappointing, and I think that's probably why the staff didn't
Resonate
with them.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Now, the patrons had a different answer than the staff.
An
did.
overwhelming answer, I want to say. Like, Commander Masters was second, but the overwhelming answer was March of the Machine Aftermath.
Yeah, Aftermath was by a large margin for the patrons. It wasn't close,
The double feature.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about this set is it wasn't a double feature. Like, these are 50 unique cards.
Yeah,
25 of them were commanders, and many of them were popular commanders. But the product sucked. It was not fun to open. It wasn't fun. You couldn't draft it. You couldn't
you could only buy.
Opening the packs wasn't fun because there's only 5 cards and there's a ton of repeats. It just felt like it wasn't for anything.
Yeah.
It felt like an experiment on their part to sort of see what levers they can pull, right? Okay, well, can we sell smaller packs? Are people really just after the rares? Do they care about draft? Like, how much do reprints matter? Because there weren't a lot of reprints in the set, and maybe they got the answer to some of those questions. But yeah, it just is another way, and I think it's similar to Commander Masters, honestly, where it's just like, you're going to charge me more or the same and give me less, and you're going to expect me to just not notice that? That doesn't seem... It just seems insulting. So I think there's just this thing about when you open it, and especially like you said, if there's only 50 cards,
you're going to get so many repeats.
You open the same thing over and over. We cracked some packs for various content things around here just to see what was in it. And you open 4 packs, you've opened a lot of the cards that you're going to open. You're just going to see those cards over and over again.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's just, I had this as my... biggest or worst set of the year for me too, because it just felt like a nothing set too. Like, it didn't feel like it justified its existence either. Like, what will, it was after the story was kind of done too, so it's just like, what are we doing? Why does this need to be here? Why do I want this?
It felt like it could have been the bonus sheet for March of the Machine.
Right.
Yeah.
But instead they had to figure out a way to basically secrete it into its own set.
Something we didn't mention for Aftermath that I forgot to mention is it desparked a bunch of really popular planeswalkers.
Oh, into regular creatures.
Yeah. So it felt like it was really targeted at commander players because it's like, here's a new Nissa. You can put Nissa in your command zone now. And like, here's a new fresh like Pia and Rocco and the new Ob Nixilis were all very popular commanders. But everybody just bought them as singles because the product was so disappointing.
It felt like they could have just released like 3 mini sets that had all the cards and you could buy a foil version or a regular version, but instead they forced people to crack boosters to find it.
Yeah.
And in doing so, it's an unpleasant feeling. Again, when you buy a Commander Masters product for so much, you only have so many cards to crack, you're not going to have that much fun cracking it.
What it felt like to me is... Have you ever been watching like a video on YouTube or something and they're doing a thing and you get to sort of the end and they go, and then to find out whatever, you have to watch this next video from me.
Right.
And you're like, I know what you're doing, right? This video is going to get however many views it's going to get. And if you put that ending thing on it, you're just going to get the same amount of views. So if you do this, you kind of get to double the views, right? Yeah, but it's tricking the system. It's not like you didn't get twice as many people to watch your content. You got the same people to watch 2 different videos rather than one.
Right.
And I think we're tempted to do this type of things as content creators all the time. And that's what this felt like, was like, I know what you're doing. These cards could have been in the set, or you could have just designed a few less, told your whole story within that one set, and you didn't need to create this other product that you're trying to like leak every dollar out of me from.
Yep.
Yeah.
Seems to be the theme. Aftermath feels like an afterthought.
Hey.
But my worst set of the year was actually different because I played limited the whole year long.
This is not a good. This limited environment is rough.
Yeah, it was Phyrexia All Will Be One. Now, there are a bunch of really cool commander cards in here. We had Mondrak, all the Dominuses that I've been putting into a lot of my decks, but I just did not enjoy this draft format at all. I think having Infect as like a main way to like at like a whole thing, right? They had their new form of Infect. It just didn't work for me. But I do agree that March of the Machine Aftermath, I basically forgot it existed. And
Is that why you didn't choose it?
yeah, that's why I didn't choose it. Because I figured it felt like March of the Machine. It just felt like another part of the set, right?
Phyrexia LB1 was who won the coin toss dot
who
set
got first
for limited. Yeah.
Which kind of feels like a pattern,
Like, who went first and opened the most one drops.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, great. All right,
Cool.
I'm dead on turn 3.
Lovely.
All right, well, that leaves you, Rachel. What was your worst set of the year? It's interesting. None of us picked the same one.
Yeah, I also picked Commander Masters, and I think it was just because it just missed the mark. Like, it just missed its market entirely, where it feels like a Commander reprint set, like Commander Legends, has shown that this kind of set can be so crazy popular and really, really fun and can put a lot of cards in the hands of people who need them. And they made this set, and they just, it feels like somebody just turned up the price dial, and it blew the whole set for everybody.
Word on the street is that price dial got turned up sort of last minute.
Like somebody bumped
That's what we heard,
on the way out the door. Yeah.
Hey, why not?
And
somebody in a meeting somewhere said, well, what if we just charged
a little more,
twice as much? Yeah.
20%.
If
They'll
this
still buy
product
it, right?
is like so good, then they'll pay for it.
It says Commander in
I
the
don't know why
title.
they got all East Coast.
Yeah.
It's because that's how mob people talk.
Yeah.
It was
That's how they
a
talk
real
on New
shame.
Copenhagen.
Hey, yo.
This set also like messed up LGSs.
Yeah.
Because they overbought. Like they were like, it's a Commander product. It's a huge Commander product. We're going to buy
It's
a
the
bunch
one
at
Commander
a
product
high price
for
point.
the year, yeah.
And then the price point came out, and everyone was like, well, I can't afford that. I just spent all my money on Lord of the Rings. And then a bunch of game stores got left holding the bag.
Yeah,
and
they're
that's
just sitting there with
And they're
product
still
info.
holding the bag, by the way.
Yeah.
We talked about what the patrons had for that one, right?
Yes, we did. Well, we talked about the worst set. Of course, we need to talk about the best set of the year.
Not
And
everything
this
was
one,
negative.
Yeah.
This one is a much shorter discussion.
Should we just say what everyone's choice
I feel
was?
like we should try and take a decent amount of time because then it'll just overweight towards the negative. Because the positive is very positive here.
The positive is so positive.
Yeah.
Should we say then
Maybe
that
it's one of the great sets of all time, and like we said earlier, the highest selling set of all
it
time.
also
almost
needed
certainly.
to be a great set too,
True.
right? There was a lot of pressure on it, so the fact that it delivered to this level was incredible, I think.
Of course, the set we are talking about is Lord of the Rings, Tales of Middle-earth.
Yeah, the staff, the patrons, Jimmy, Rachel, and myself all chose this independently as the best set of the year.
5 out of 5.
Yeah. I mean, this is the set that I saw it on the calendar and was like, well, I'm going to start a piggy bank now because it's going to ruin me. And it was like every single card that came out had me excited. Every piece of art that came out, it had me excited. You were like, I know that. And he goes with this guy, and it's cute that these two work together. And when you just
I rewatched the movies as a result.
Yes.
Right?
When you
100%.
get every joke that every card is telling, and all of the designers get every joke that they're telling, it was made with so much love and so much attention, and like, it was just a blast. I mean, it's hard to find a bad thing to say about it.
Yeah, it is interesting to compare this to Doctor Who because Lord of the Rings is a tight story. There are characters, and Tolkien knew what he was doing. You look at Doctor Who, and it's like 60 years of all over the place. It's 15 different actors.
Yeah.
And so I think it makes a lot of sense how cohesive Lord of the Rings felt in comparison. Because one, everyone that was working on it probably has some working knowledge of it, but prior to going in, right? And prerequisite. And from that, you're able to just create a lot more, I think, from a designer standpoint, too, and just like come up with better. I'm sure there's so much left on the table that they didn't get to do.
Yeah, and it's the perfect pairing, too, because just the setting, it's high fantasy.
Yeah, there are elves already, goblins,
it just,
orcs.
It's not a large step from whatever Magic is doing to Tolkien's Middle-earth, right? Like, and a lot of the original inspiration for Magic and Dungeons and Dragons, like all of high
Warhammer.
fantasy stuff is basically birthed from Tolkien's work. So yeah, like you said, goblins and orcs and elves and wizards and all that stuff. So Yeah, but I don't know that I've ever played a set where I was so giddy of like, I'm casting Sauron.
Yes.
Yeah.
Every single
it's
one
like,
felt like that.
It's goosebumps, right? How many times in your Magic playing career do you get goosebumps when you're playing a card? But Lord of the Rings just delivered that over and over. It's like, oh my God, I have Sam and Frodo out.
Yeah.
Look at them!
Yeah.
They're doing it.
Yeah, you were just like, I want to cry.
Yeah.
So it's just like the perfect pairing, home run all the way. I think they could do more Lord of the Rings stuff. They're probably going to do The Hobbit and stuff like that. I hope they do. I hope they don't overdo it. But yeah, it's to the point, like you said, I think we all circled it at the beginning of the year. And it was like, if they do this right, it almost doesn't matter what else happens this year. It's hard for the year to be a failure because this could be such a home run. And it brought so many people in. You know, I don't have data, and they probably do, but I would hazard to guess that it's probably the single most sort of new player grabbing device that's ever existed. Yeah,
and all the axes it worked on. Modern Legal, great commander cards, draft set, every
draft
single thing hit.
Yep.
Yeah.
A big thing that I really liked about the set that I know people have sort of poked holes in is I really liked that they did different versions of each character on multiple cards.
Yeah,
Oh
great.
yeah, that's great.
I think the attention to, like, if you make one Gandalf card and that card doesn't work, like, it's a disaster. But because they got to tell the Gandalf story, which, like, okay, here's Gandalf the Grey. He's still a wizard. He's crazy fireworks man.
Yeah.
Like, and then there's Mono Blue, which is just sort of like hanging out Gandalf.
Yeah,
and then there's like
White.
Battle Gandalf.
Yeah.
And multiple versions of that. It felt really accurate, and it felt really like it was a cool way to interpret the color pie in terms of like recognizing a character can be different things or be in a different time or in a different setting, like what part of the pie they represent, which was very cool for me.
It's so perfect to Lord of the Rings too, because that story is so much about how the characters change from the innocence of the hobbits to the end when they're like in battle and they know how to fight and they're doing their things, and Frodo has really gone to a dark place and like
white to white with black pips to white black. I mean, like, oh God, my heart.
Yeah, and all the characters. I mean, Gandalf literally changes what he looks like. And that's a huge arc of this. Well, that's what an arc is, I guess. But that's what the Lord of the Rings books are about. Kind of is the change of the characters. So yeah, that felt like really to me intrinsic to the story and just another way to, really understand your source material and feel like you're being really true to it while also like feeling very much like Magic. So there's not a single bad thing I could say about the set. Like, it's amazing. So congratulations everyone over at Wizards for that one. Yeah,
it was
that's an all-timer.
Huge achievement. It's gonna be hhard to find a new favorite set, if I'm honest.
Yeah. We can only hope for Marvel
Lord of the Rings
in a couple
Aftermath.
years that they can knock such a thing or other parts. Lord of the Rings Aftermath.
Yeah. What happens then?
Okay. We have the biggest reprints of the year, and we're going to go over and sort of break down how reprints went overall, how this year compares to previous years, plus the best and worst cards of 2023 coming up. But before we get to that, we're going to take a quick break and hear a message from our sponsors.
Hear that? The roar of the adoring crowd. Victor is back, and I'm as enthralling as ever. Hey, my eyes are up here. Just kidding. I don't shave my impeccable chest so people won't look. No, I groom this smooth bod using MANSCAPED. Their Performance Package 5.0 Ultra is the ultimate holiday bundle for the man who deserves it all. And that man is me. It comes complete with the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra, the Weed Whacker 2.0 ear and nose trimmer, and oh, so much more. Both trimmers feature advanced skin-safe technology, so the only cuts I fear come from my opponent's blades. Ha! They wish. Plus, with Manscaped, I can make sure I smell as good as I look thanks to their Crop Soother aftershave lotion. Now I'm looking sharp, dangerous, and ready for that mistletoe. So if you know anyone who wants to be as enthralling as me this holiday season, get them the Manscaped Performance Package 5.0. Or just grab one for you. Nothing wrong with being a little self-centered, I always say. To myself, I love me.
Get 20% off and free shipping with the code CommandZone at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code CommandZone. Manscaped. Get all of yourself ready for the holidays.
Josh, when we first started the Command Zone podcast, did you ever think it was going to turn into a full-blown business?
Absolutely not. I mean, honestly, I didn't think we were going to last a year.
But now we moved into a brand new space with a full staff making more content than ever.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey. But luckily, we found a lot of great tools to help us along the way, like Shopify.
Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business, whether you're at the apartment stage or in the full office suite.
For a long time, we didn't have a merch store because, well, the logistics can get pretty daunting. But Shopify's all-in-one e-commerce platform helped us expand what we could offer and get our stuff in the hands of our fans.
Tons of businesses use Shopify, like Brooklinen, Rothy's, Allbirds, and you can see why. They've got the internet's best converting checkout, powerful tools like Shopify Magic, and an award-winning support system that's there for you no matter what.
It just makes the selling side of your business that much easier. So you can focus on the things you really care about, like playing Magic, or talking about playing Magic, or playing Magic.
You know what, Josh? We do have cool jobs.
Yeah, we do.
Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/TCZ, all lowercase.
Go to shopify.com/TCZ now to grow your business no matter what stage you're in. Again, shopify.com/TCZ.
These forces are acting.
Having some fleet command troubles?
This Armada battle is literally impossible. My alliance is taking on the board cube, but I don't have the firepower we need or the warp range to even get there in time.
Well, have you tried using the Discovery's summon ability to warp your fleet straight to the fight?
The Discovery can summon other ships? I was just looking at damage.
It sounds like you've got some learning to do.
Star Trek Fleet Command is no place for mindless brute force.
It is a game of strategy, precision, and coordination. Each crew of elite officers are handpicked for their ability to work together.
When taking on the Borg, try using the Vidar with 5 and 6 of 11 on the bridge. Both the ship and the officers get a major stat boost when battling Borg targets.
Pop quiz. The swarm is invading Federation space. What do?
I don't know, lose?
Incorrect. You upgrade the USS Franklin's phaser beams to Mark IV and promote Uhura to captain to mitigate their initial barrage.
Oh, I get it. I need to optimize my plan based on the strengths and weaknesses of my fleet and officers.
Now that's thinking like a real commander.
I need to crew my interceptor with Vartok and other Klingons for their war bonus. Then Kamal's officer ability should increase my shields. It's the perfect configuration to outmaneuver my opponent.
A+.
Magna cum laude.
Hey, you three, see me after class. I'm having trouble with Ferengi raiders. You guys can help, right?
Well, who's on your crew? Star Trek Fleet Command. Click the link in the description and download it now for free.
Welcome back, everybody. We are breaking down Magic in 2023, but before we get back into it, we got a cool announcement.
That's right. It's time for MagicCon all over again, and MagicCon Chicago is coming up, and that means the return of Game Nights Live.
Yeah, we're back, baby.
It's going to be Friday, February 23rd at MagicCon Chicago. It's going to be really sweet. It's going to be at 4 p.m. on the main stage. This is my favorite part, obviously, of every MagicCon.
Yeah.
But we also have a very special guest joining us this time around.
Yeah, if you haven't heard, the professor from Tolarian Community College is going to be on stage with us as a player in the game. Again, on the main stage. I want to stress, it's on the Friday of the show, February 23rd. We hear from people all the time on Saturday and Sunday. They come to meet us, play games with us, get a picture, signature, whatever. And they're like, when's Game Nights Live? And we're like, it was yesterday or it was Friday. So if you at all can, I know it's tough. People got to take days off and there's travel time and all the rest of it. But if you at all can, I would so highly recommend, almost above anything else, to try and get there early enough on Friday that you can make it to Game Nights Live. It really is, maybe we're biased.
It's so fun.
It really is incredibly fun. Prof's going to turn that up to 11.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and I don't know about you two, but legit, the most fun I have making Magic content is when we're on stage playing the game with the crowd cheering, you know, yelling at us about mistriggers, telling us like, attack this person, not that person. They get super involved.
For everything.
We have all kinds of ways to get them involved. They roll a huge dice sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is just the most fun you've ever had, like interacting with, you know, watching Magic. So if you can get there Friday, February 23rd in time to see the show, I can't recommend it enough.
And a couple questions we get all the time. So there is no separate ticket required as long as you have a pass to get into MagicCon itself. You can come see the show, and the seating is open. So usually about 30 or 40 minutes before the show starts, people start piling into the seats, and by the time the show starts, it is standing room only. So if you want to get there and make sure you have a seat, make sure you get there a little bit early. And that's
especially with the prof.
Yeah, especially with the prof.
Oh my God. I would say even get it there now. But whatever the panel is before.
Yeah, watch that panel.
Get in, watch that,
you
hold
can
your seat.
Hold your seat. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Right. We are breaking down 2023. Before we go any further, we're going to look at some of the numbers, which we do every year. And I've got Josh and Jimmy's blacked out. So we're going to see how well they paid attention in 2023, or how well they knew 2023 this year.
We know the first one because we called out this number, so
I was
we
gonna
get to
say.
cheat. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the first thing we're going to talk about is the sets that came out this year. So 8 of them came out in 2020, 7 came out in 2021, 11 sets came out in 2022. How many sets came out in 2023?
Yeah, it's 10.
Yeah, it's 10.
No
I was going to
surprise.
say 11, but since Jimmy counted again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 10 sets in 2023. We went back a little bit. Is that good? I mean, we've been, I'm going to say, complaining, grumbling about number of sets for a while now.
Yeah.
Are we happy that we're down one?
This includes Aftermath and the Lord of the Rings re-release as a separate set. Those
Yes.
kind of didn't feel like full sets to me.
I included both of those because they had unique cards
Yeah.
in them. So it felt like we were ignoring a huge swath of cards if we skipped over them. And they're sort of like major product releases.
Right.
And I think we definitely had moments this year where we're like, gosh, another thing is coming out like right now. How do we address that? How do
Yeah.
we pay? Like, we didn't make any space for the Lord of the Rings holiday cards. And so that felt frustrating as like a content creator. But I think that's something that we're going to adjust to in the coming year, is start respecting the speed of product coming out more and covering it in a more
way that works,
concise
yeah.
way. And
But it's not all we're doing is
yeah,
reviews,
yeah.
yeah, and building in more time to make sure that we're making stuff that's, you know, that's different. That's not just covering products as they come out.
Yeah. The next one's an interesting one, and we do not know the answer to this.
Yeah.
This is a big one. So this is the number of Commander precons that have come out. In 2020,
The way
there
these
were,
numbers increase is crazy.
it's
I know.
wild. There were
it's-
only 9 precons in 2020.
Which was a
Wow.
lot at the time, by the way. There had
Yeah.
only
Yeah.
ever been
Yeah.
5 in a year before that.
9. In 2021, there were 15
Oh,
precons
boy.
released. So they added an additional 6.
And then,
In 2024,
2022.
oh my gosh. In 2022, they released 24 precons.
Oh boy.
And in 2023, how many precons did they release?
I want to guess really high, but I also think that similar to the number of sets, we've reached a.
are we leveling off?
Yeah, we're leveling off, right?
But is it more or less?
It's got to be more.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
So I think that there were 26. No, 27.
I'm going to guess 22.
22.
22.
I'm going to
Down.
guess slightly under.
Ooh.
I don't know why. Just to be different. I don't
Yeah,
know. That's
yeah.
my gut. What
It's
is
Price is Right rules,
It was
right?
25 precons
Oh,
came out
wait.
this
Jimmy
year.
wins.
It was just about the same as last year, but the
Okay.
5th precon on March of the Machines just
Just pushed us over.
pushed us over a little
Yeah,
bit.
there it is.
I
so maybe
think
we
it
are
is-
leveling off a little, yeah?
Yeah.
I think we're leveling off in terms of like the number of precons coming out. I do think that the precons that came out this year were more expensive than the precons that came out last year.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and a couple years ago, we used to get those, I used to call them set decks, which
Yeah.
were the lower
only
cost precons that only
2
had
new
like 3
cards.
new cards
Yeah,
or
3
something.
new cards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd say average price almost certainly this year would have been higher.
Yeah.
There are what, 52 weeks in a year, so we're almost up to 1 precon every other week.
No, why'd you have to say it like that?
It was, I mean, that's a lot.
I think it would be hard for them to go up into the 30 range for precons. It's just
Yeah.
so many. They're
Unless they did it where it's like, this is just a full reprint precon or something. But even then, they have to make at least a new commander.
Yeah.
Like, that's the big appeal of the precons, too.
Yeah. All right. So the next stat that we go through every year is the number of new commanders that were released.
Okay.
In 2020, there were 192 new commanders. In 2021, 193.
okay.
In 2022, there were 362 legal commanders released.
They almost doubled the number of the year
Yeah.
before.
Well, they had that big legend set, too.
There was a big legend set. Yeah. How many were there that came out this year?
Man, I think this number went down.
You do?
Yeah, I wanted to say 365, so there'd be one for every day. And then we could see if you knew all of them.
The answer's no. I'll just tell you right now.
I'll start with Aragorn. Aragorn.
Aragorn.
Arwen.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to
Alphabetical
say
too.
Sauron. Saruman.
Yeah.
The one Saruman
I
you
think
can't
Bilbo's
understand.
after Arwen. Like,
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm going to say 275.
What?
Yeah,
Wow.
I'm going to go down. I could be really wrong, by the way.
Yeah, I'm going to say, I do think it went down a little bit because last year, I have to hope is an anomaly. Just 192, 193, 362.
Yeah, it's-
but I don't think it went down that much. I'm going to say 341.
Ooh, okay.
There were 392
there was more?
commanders released this year. 392.
More than one a day.
So this was an unbelievable number this year.
That's wild.
Like, you have to remember, for Doctor Who, there were 15 doctors plus like 40 companions.
Yeah.
Oh, those count.
Those count. Those are legendary creatures that
Plus all
could
the
be your
villains and
commander,
stuff.
plus
Yeah.
all the villains,
Yeah.
then all of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Dang, that is a lot.
So we've got two more categories. This first one is the number of new cards that came out this year.
Okay.
So that includes the commanders. We know it's higher than 392.
Okay.
I'll give you a hint.
Oh, thanks.
In 2020, we got 1,219 new cards. In 2021, we got 1,820 new cards. In 2022, we got 1,992 new cards. How many came out in 2023?
Okay, based on that last discussion we had, now we got to be going up. So I'm going to say 2,222, 2222 all the way across.
There you go. I like that guess.
Okay. I'm going to do 2,100 even.
This one was 1,917.
What? It went down?
We went down.
By only a little.
We've given you the two numbers, so this last one's very easy to guess. The percentage of new cards that are commanders.
Wait, we got to do maths like this now?
Yeah, quick math.
Okay. 2,000 divided by 400 is about...
It's 15.8% in 2020, 10.6 in 2021, 18.2 in 2022.
So
How many
be like
in 2023?
19.1, 19.2?
20.1.
Jimmy's got better math. 20.4%. 1 in 5 new cards made this year are legendary creatures.
Cool.
Or commanders.
Potential.
1 in 5.
1 in 5 of the new cards. Yeah, it makes sense, though. I mean, they are just, first of all, like you said, 2 of the sets were just, that was a requirement of making those cards.
Were.
Like, Doctor Who especially with the
Both
companion.
of them had like historic or legendary themes because there were so many legendary creatures.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they are printing more legends than they ever have. And it feels like it's just a flood of options all the time in terms of what commander players are building.
Wowee. Okay.
All right. Almost 2,000 new cards came out this year.
Jeez.
We're going to talk about the best of them.
Yeah, Jimmy, are there any on this list that stand out to you, 2 or 3?
Yes. It's Agatha's Soul Cauldron.
Yeah,
so this is great in
good.
my Marchesa's deck, but it's also just a 2-mana play it in any deck you want, graveyard hate deck with insane amounts of upside.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you have to have some amount of activated abilities going on to really want it. But
it's any graveyard, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, you definitely want to be able to use it for your own stuff.
But it turns out that's not a high, like, it's not that narrow.
Yeah.
It's pretty broad, the usage.
Yeah. So I enjoy this card quite a bit. I'm finding different ways to use it in different decks. It's in at least 3 of my commander decks now.
Wow.
I may have not updated all of the lists yet, but it's in there.
Of course, we have to talk about the battles. It was a big year that we had a new permanent type come out. I think the most popular in Commander and probably the most powerful is Invasion of Ikoria, which is the tutor that puts a creature on the battlefield. It's the new Green Sun Zenith that turns into a dinosaur. What more could you ask for?
And there's
turns out tutors are good.
Yeah, very good.
And who knew?
But a big one that Jimmy and I play all the time is Invasion of Kaldheim.
It's really fun.
That's really good.
It's really powerful.
So we got to talk about PanHarmonyCon.
Oh yeah.
Elish Norn, Mother of Machines, which Josh piloted to a victory on game night. Spoiler alert.
A lot of people crying at the time that it should be banned.
Yeah, I mean, it was like as soon as it was released, people were like, this is going to ruin casual Magic. And it turns out casual players were like, nah, it's probably too mean for my playgroup and just
I'm not going to play it. Yeah.
It's very powerful too,
It
but
is?
it's not like broken powerful, but it is extremely good. The shutting off of their
Very
stuff
good.
is almost the best part about the card.
Yeah. You don't really care so
Banner.
much about doubling your own stuff. Yeah, when other stuff stops happening for your opponents and it's one-sided, rough.
We've got to mention Utah this year. Fairy Mastermind came out in March of the Machine. Flash draws cards, and I think this card was a little worse than I thought it was going to be, but is still incredible and so much fun to play.
Yeah, good card.
Just a good card. Same with Atali, Primal Conqueror. I think this is the most new. I've seen people build this deck in Sauron more than any other deck, I think.
Atali's so fun. Yeah,
Atali just comes out, whammo, casts a bunch of stuff. Blammo.
Whammo blammo.
Whammo blammo.
You've got a new catchphrase.
Everyone loves Blammo from Jimmy. Blammo. I wanted to mention Lorien Revealed. This card has seen a ton of play. I didn't think it was impressive at all, and then now it just pops up in all these competitive decks and stuff too.
When these cards came out, I was shocked because islands, like land cycling for 1 mana is essentially just a tapped land.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're effectively paying 1 to get a land to put into play, right? So Lorien Revealed to me is like an MDFC with an island on the back, any island on the back. And the fact that like it can go get a breeding pool and it's just a draw spell is so powerful. Like if you picture like a Balaged Recovery, but it's Lorien Revealed with an island on the back, that's really good. And we'll probably play that.
Yeah.
And this is better than that because it fixes you.
Yeah, because you can go find Hallowed Fountain or something,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, any
or the
island.
Triumph.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think Lorien Revealed is excellent. I think the Troll is excellent. I think these should see as much play as a lot of the MDFCs that are seeing a lot of play right now, like your Malakir Rebirths and Balaged Recoveries.
Hold on to them.
Really, really good. Foils are expensive.
Yeah.
It's a common. You don't need the foil.
Yeah.
You're good. You're good.
Well, now that we're on the Lord of the Rings path,
Yep.
I suppose we should talk about some Lord of the Rings cards that made a splash. Mm-hmm. This one splashed in lava at the end of the books. It's
Yeah.
the One Ring.
Spoiler alert, Jimmy.
Oh, shoot. Sorry, the heroes don't make it.
This card...
This card is ridiculous.
This is an absurd card, and every single time it comes down across the table, you need to treat it with extreme prejudice.
Yeah, because
It's just a win the game clock.
I get why all the
That
text is
starts
on there,
next
right,
turn.
story-wise.
Yeah.
But why is it indestructible?
Yeah, right.
That's like one of the worst
it
things
gets
about
burned
it.
up by lava.
I can't even kill it. Like, come
Yeah.
on, at least if you're going to also give them protection from everything,
Yeah.
then at least allow me to get
Kill
rid of
them.
this thing.
Yeah.
And it's like pretty hard, not,
Yeah.
because exile is not as ubiquitous on non-creatures removal. And it's just, so many times it comes down and you're just like, rough.
They're like, it'll kill them. You're
First
like,
of all,
after they draw 30 cards.
Well,
Yeah.
first of all, I can't kill you now.
Yeah.
So you're going to get 3 cards off of it because you will get that next turn. So when I was reading it, I was like, it's kind of a little bit slow, right? Play it for 4, draw 1, then next turn draw 2.
2, yeah.
And that's a harmonize. And harmonize is not that good. So my brain was like, this is okay. But the problem is it guarantees you that next turn.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it says, so it's worst case harmonize, best case of like, Blue Sun Zenith for free or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the next time they tap it and they get 3, they've drawn 6 cards for 4 mana.
And protected themselves for a whole turn.
And never mind the crap that everybody pulls, which is like, I capsize this every turn or whatever. And it's just like,
even if
you
it's
can't
just not
touch me.
broken. Yeah.
Yeah. And the only thing
I
that
blink it.
they pulled it back a little bit is that when it enters the battlefield, you have
Untap
to
it.
cast it to get the ability.
Yeah. Right.
That's
Okay.
the only way they pulled the power back a little bit.
do you think the One Ring is bannably good? It's definitely bannably good in Eternal formats and stuff. We already know.
But
In
Commander.
In Commander.
You can go infinite in Commander with 2 cards. The One Ring, to me, does not scream bannable.
Like, I think it's very powerful.
Yeah.
But I don't think that there's like a play pattern problem with it
Yeah.
that usually causes a ban in Commander. We've talked about this actually. It's like Mana Crypt level.
Yeah.
Where this
Yeah.
changes the power level of your deck to be like, it's a step.
there.
It's a step above like. Right,
Don't
like
tell me your
a
deck's a 6
middle.
if it has a One Ring in it.
It's that level of card. It's like Mana Drain.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's bannable, no.
Josh?
No, I don't like to ban anything. Honestly.
Yeah.
I agree with Rachel, though. I like that way of putting it, too. The play pattern is generally incremental. There are ways to sort of be broken with it. Usually requires a ton of mana in your late game anyway.
Yeah.
But it feels like this card that's sort of creepingly insurmountable, right?
Yeah.
So, but I think that kind of play pattern is actually not the worst. It's,
Yeah.
So I still get to do things. I still get to try, and even if I'm, probably going to lose because of the amount of value it's creating.
Yeah. But there are a ton of cards in Commander that have a similar feel.
Yeah.
Where it's like, dang it, if I don't get rid of this soon, it's going to just take over the game.
That protection, I just have found
Yeah.
it to be so much better than I thought it was going to be, too.
It will,
Like-
for sure, for me, keep Paradox Engine on the ban list.
Yeah.
If you have those two, forget about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's officially talk about Card of the Year.
Jimmy, I mentioned
Yeah.
that you had a runner-up because
Yeah, let's
everybody
do that.
said One Ring, but what was your runner-up? Because I think it's
So-
interesting that it's not the One Ring.
So I at first I instantly wrote the One Ring, but
Yeah.
then I was like, you know what? I really like the battles, and I think Invasion of Ikoria is also a card of the year type for me. In fact, I think you could even put Invasion of Kaldheim on here because very rarely, you don't get a tutor effect with a backside that also is extremely powerful, and that to me is the invasions. Like both Invasion of Ikoria and Kaldheim are great on their front side.
Segovia, too.
And Segovia, yeah.
Segovia's
And
very
every
good.
single time I played one of them, I've been like, wow, the game just went way better for me. And I have this backside. If I can flip it to it, then the game's going to go even better for me. So One Ring, obviously, you play it, you can say the exact same thing. The game just got better for me, and if it sticks around, it's going to keep going better.
Yeah.
So I think at least it fulfills that level, and it's really interesting because it's a brand new card type. We've never seen it before, and it happens to be very impactful and ones that I'm actually willingly putting into decks. So that to me gives it Card of the Year status.
We needed some time to talk about how battles impact Commander and how they play in Commander. So we really haven't spent a ton of time being like, what have battles done to the landscape of Commander?
Yeah.
And the answer is not a ton yet. But the more I play with them, the more interesting they get politically. I have absolutely seen deals that it's like, if you let me flip this battle, then I won't do that.
Yeah,
It's for you.
And
yeah.
if even if you give it to somebody who has slightly inconvenient blocks on it, they're not going to block. You can flip your battle. It's yours. I've had no problem flipping battles ever. It's just the turn I play them.
And other players
that's
can
really
flip them
interesting.
too.
Yeah.
So that's
if
huge.
they wanna be a bud.
Yeah.
Let me give you a little bit of advice out there. Always block. Lose that game. Doesn't matter. They're not going to target you with battles anymore.
There you go. No more. Yeah.
If you play in a play
It's like
group
if
where
somebody
it's the
asks
same
you to
people,
babysit, are you just like, it all went wrong?
the first time, just set the stove on fire, then they'll never know.
Yeah, they'll never
Don't
ask
do
you
that.
again.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
He's not cooking for Thanksgiving this year. We're not allowing them in the kitchen.
Yeah, fight like a dog to keep that battle from flipping.
But outside of that, the Card of the Year is obviously the One Ring.
Yeah, it's hard to beat under like a social circumstance and a play pattern
And like a historical circumstance.
Yeah,
I still think about Posty buying that One Ring. Josh saw it in person. Like,
You have to hold it. That was cool.
yeah, you took a picture with it. How many times have you taken a Magic card and been like, I need to take a picture with this?
Yeah.
I was like taking the picture, and Posty like was in there. I was like, no, get out of the picture. I'm taking it with
me with the ring.
Yeah, I got lots of pictures with you.
Yeah, I don't need that part of it.
All right, what about just worst cards overall of 2023?
Yeah, this is an interesting category because obviously we couldn't do like the least powerful cards of 2023.
common
How
from-
fun. What a fun category.
It's draft chat from Phyrexia.
Like,
all we
I
want.
don't know. It's that like first strike trick.
Yeah, the one
mana.
where just one red.
Yeah,
They always print it over and over again, but I still don't like it.
These are cards that we didn't like the design of them. They were either too confusing or they presented problems or they were way overhyped and just underperformed after that.
Yeah, the ones that people were like, oh my gosh, we got to ban it.
Yeah.
And then never does anything in the format, which is very common.
Yeah. And there was a few of them, and this is very subjective. I pulled a couple of the ones that really stuck out to me. I think the biggest one for me that I was like most excited about to like when I played it was Skrelv's Hive.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The Bitter Blossom.
The Bitter
White.
Blossom.
Yeah.
This is not Bitter Blossom.
It is not.
Not being able to block is huge.
It is hurting you and not protecting you.
And they're not flying.
And they don't have flying and they don't have free attacks. It does not accumulate the way that Bitter Blossom does. And I was like, this will be like a $12 card. And it's like, this is like a $3 card. And
It's still cool, right?
It's cool. And it's got a Skrelv on it, who I love. Look at his toofs. But I think this card I was really high on and hopeful about, and then I played it and was like, oh boy, I'm never putting this in a deck.
I think if this had come out later in the year, we would have known. We were pretty early on in this create tokens that can't be blocked thing.
Yeah.
By the time like Micro Tyrant comes out, we know that like, because having
Not
played with
being
them
able to
enough,
block
like
is
it's a huge deal.
Right,
Just
yeah.
the fact that they are not blockers makes them non-entities at many points in the game. Really, they don't exist at all until you have a pump spell or 100 of them.
Yeah.
And otherwise, they just aren't there. They're not doing anything. Sometimes, obviously, you can sack for value and some other things, but there's just so many situations where you're just like, yes, I have 10 of these. They don't do anything.
Right, yeah.
So it's just not Bitter Blossoms. Yeah. And even Bitter Blossom is, it's not in its heyday anymore.
Yeah.
It's still a card we can play, obviously, but it is not like a brokenly powerful card. So taking Bitter Blossom and saying like,
tune it down
66% of that.
Yeah.
That's quite a big hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the Corrupted, where you give your creatures Toxic and Lifelink, is not that impactful either.
Yeah.
Because Toxic is not the same.
You still have to hit with 3/1/1s that don't have evasion. Good luck.
Yeah, exactly. And then to that same degree, Venerated Rot Priest was a card that everyone I felt like was like, oh my gosh, it's going to break it wide open. So much Infect is back. Infect ruins games. I hate Infect. And it really only made a splash like in Standard for a little bit.
Yeah. I've never played against a Venerated Rot Priest, and I think if I died to it, I'd be like, nice.
Good job. Yeah.
Well done.
You really had to
You
jump
earned
through
it.
some hoops.
Pretty
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
You earned it. That's a good one.
I wanted to read this one again just because it's a real doozy.
I still don't know how this card
I think
works. I was
this-
like, I'm going to build this. No, I don't want to think about it.
I think this card has the coolest art in the set. in the set of Lord of the Rings. This is incredible art, and the card is undiscernible. It's Saruman of many colors. 3 white, blue, black for an avatar wizard. He's a 5/4 with ward, discard an enchantment, instant, or sorcery. Okay. Already confusing. Then, whenever you cast your second spell each turn, each opponent mills 2 cards. When 1 or more cards are milled this way, exile target enchantment, instant, or sorcery with equal or lesser mana value than that spell from your opponent's graveyard. Ugh. Copy the exiled spell. You may cast the copy without paying its mana cost.
Saruman of many words.
I remember having this in a draft on Arena. I'm like, have no idea how it works.
Yeah.
And it's just like, but the good thing is, Arena will figure it out. I'll cast my second spell. I have no idea what's going to happen. Yeah. I don't know. I just don't know. I really don't.
I sat down and I was like, what is that spell?
Yeah.
Of the ones I milled?
Which one am I counting the mana value of?
Yeah, what that?
And you have to go back and be like, whenever you cast your second spell, okay, each opponent.
And you have to explain it to your opponents each time if you build the deck.
Oh my God.
And even then you might get it wrong.
Like, it was.
You don't have to explain it to your opponent because nobody plays this card.
Nobody plays this card. Because nobody
I was thinking about building it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's too much.
I was so disappointed because it's such a sick art, but
The funny thing is somebody somewhere convinced somebody else to let that go on a card. No, it's totally obvious.
Yeah.
See, when it says that spell, it refers to the second spell you cast. See that, and somebody's like, okay.
Yeah.
All right, I guess.
Yeah, and it makes sense because in Saruman, in the movies and in the books, he does this and this and this. It's like, too much.
Well, the thing was, it probably said, whenever you cast your second spell, each opponent mills 2, you can cast a spell from among them. Or something like that.
No,
and then someone's like, that's too powerful. We're going to cut it to this
narrow
and this and that.
Narrow it.
We're going to make the mana value less than that. It's only 1 per turn.
Yeah.
It can happen on everybody. And you also have to have
We're going to translate it into Latin and translate it into Greek.
Bring it back.
And then we're going to bring it back to English.
Oh, my God.
That is my problem with a lot of Magic cards these days is there are too many words, too many triggers, too much complication around all of it. And you see it happen quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also wanted to mention Blink.
Oh, yes. From the Doctor Who.
From Doctor Who. That the chapters are out of order.
Yeah, it goes 1, 3, 2, 4, and you're supposed to blink in between them as you're...
And it's a Doctor Who joke, because it's like jumping forward and back in time, which I get.
It's also a new player product.
Well, I don't think they designed any of Doctor Who thinking about new players.
No.
It was very different. Yeah, so...
I think we were like, I had read all these cards and I never clocked it. And somebody had to mention to me that they noticed. And the only reason I knew was because somebody told me that they were out of order.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we're not trained to look at those numbers anymore. We're trained that like ... They're bullet points.
Yeah.
They're not numbers.
It's Roman numerals and the 2 and 3 actually look pretty similar.
At least they could have taken the 3 and the 4 and like put them on a different plane, like move them left.
Made them different, like make it look a little different.
Force the eye there to examine it and be like, oh, but they just were like, they'll probably notice. But they might also say this, this sentence, which is fine.
Yeah.
So what if they play it wrong?
Yeah. So what?
So what if they play it wrong?
I agree. It was. I think that Blink just really illustrated for me that there was a lot of really, really complicated, really like a lot of cards that you have to really, really closely read.
Yeah.
Where it's not about like, okay, I get the idea, and you keep going. Because when you read a card and you just skip over it and you like your brain erases certain words.
Yeah.
It shortcuts it.
You do it wrong. And that's how your brain works, right? Like we tend to skip over phrases that we see all the time. Like when it enters the battlefield, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
It's a
you go to the next one.
It compresses it, yeah.
And when we play with those parts that our brain normally compresses, it makes cards really, really difficult to remember and really difficult to understand. And I think that was like where the Saruman card got really confusing and where Blink was really frustrating for me personally.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's talk about card design in 2023 after having bashed on card design. Yeah, because I think, honestly, that R&D has done a really, really good job. Listen, they're designing 2,000 plus new cards in a year, or just under 2,000, I suppose I should say, which is a ton. That's more cards than just used to come out counting reprints in years, just like 5 years ago. So it's an insane amount of new stuff. And the fact that there's nothing really huge to complain about. Nothing broken, nothing that unbalanced our format. I mean, other formats can say what they want, but for Commander, which they are designing for as the number one thing they're thinking about now. They've really gotten good at having cool effects, but keeping them narrow. They've really got a lot of
Sorcery
interesting
speed
things
only.
going on. Yeah, they know the levers to pull and the dials to turn. And I really have been impressed both last year and this year with just their ability to put a bunch of new stuff into the environment and not have it vastly disrupt that environment. For the most part, only add fun, new, cool, smiling, and not to add a bunch of like groaning for the most part. And I think, that's pretty hard to pull off.
Yeah. Back in the day, it felt like when they made a pre-con for the first time, they're like, let's do something that's just so powerful or so interesting. And then it usually ends up ripping at the seams. And now that you said, right, they know what the levers to pull, they like sorcery speed only when you cast it from your hand, right? These phrases have become pretty ubiquitous in a lot of the new cards. My only complaint is that they figured out where the edges of the box are, and instead of just playing and letting there be sparsity still in the box, they've like filled in every possible crevice they can with a triggered ability. When this happens, this happens. It has to be Mana Valley 2 or like the restrictions actually add complexity within the structure of safety. And I've found games that go like Samwise Gamgee is one of my favorite decks to play, but by turn like 4, I'm taking 10-minute turns sometimes.
Yeah.
Just because you can do so many game actions. And so that I think is the thing that's concerning me about card design, is that we're getting into a very like, I have a headache after every game. I need to take a break.
But that just feels, I would think that just feels like a thing that's natural when the amount of cards, like, let's just take the amount of cards that we're going to re-release and spread it out over twice the amount of time. It would have happened in twice the amount of time, but like, there's only so much they can do. There's only so much design space that does exist. They're naturally needing to fill that in. Just twice as fast now because they're being told how many cards need to come out. But the ability to do that and not accidentally be way outside that box that breaks things, that's the tough part, I think. In days of yore, all the time there was like, what the heck is this? This is nuts. Skull clamp? What are we doing? And just seems to happen less now. And I think that shows a lot of maturity from R&D. There's probably, I don't know this for sure, but like, newer, younger, hungrier, want to make a name, want their cards to be seen, tend to sort of push the boundaries a little more, where they feel like very secure and they know what they're doing, they're good at it, and they don't have to like go nuts and like shake everything up, and they still manage to find new angles too, new stuff where we go, that's really cool. Ian Malcolm's a really good it's a really good example of like, didn't break anything. It doesn't have to be broken to be interesting and cool.
It also feels fresh. I mean, for me, I think that's a huge opportunity for R&D, Universes Beyond, because you get to take something that you already know and understand and be like, what does that look like in a Magic card? And that opens the door for more creative stuff. And so you're not just printing the same card with a slight tweak on it, where it's like, this one is this card, but for artifacts. Which we're getting some of that. But when you make a card that's specifically designed around like Gandalf, you're like, okay, so Gandalf's an anthem effect. Like he buffs up the people around him, and then, there's this line in the book where he says he's going to come back on the 5th day, and I can make that as a reference. And it means that you get these sort of creative things in the card that feel like inside jokes that you get to catch, but also it creates a card that we've never seen before because you're taking something from outside of Magic and making it Magic. Whereas like it feels like a lot of the cards that are made inside Magic space kind of feel redundant. I mean, this year we have Anointed Procession, now we have Mondrak, Glory Dominus, and we just got O'Hare Tuck. And those are all 3 cards that are very, very popular in Commander, but how many of these do we need and how many of these do we want?
We know exactly where that pattern leads, right?
Right.
We know what the next one is. It's 4 times, and then it's 5 times.
It's 4 times, or it's like this one only does artifact tokens, and it's on an artifact that's white, and it's
twice to get one.
It just you get to the point where you're like, we've seen this before, yada yada yada. We can keep moving. So I thought there was a lot of creativity in R&D this year. I was very frustrated with Doctor Who because I don't know the inside jokes. And
that felt
it
like
made the cards very difficult to remember because they were all doing random stuff, it felt like. But obviously they're tied to like an episode, which makes sense if you're a Doctor Who fan.
Wasn't there as much.
It might have been. It just was hard for us to translate because
we're not necessarily as well versed
in depth.
So I thought there was a ton of creativity and love coming out of R&D this year, which was very exciting.
Yeah, hats off to R&D for sure. They did a great job this year and last year too. And I think the trend is nice. Like I have a lot of trust in them at the moment, which is good. Let's talk about reprints for this year. yeah, we got a lot of reprints this year. Let's talk about how it sort of matched up with what we were asking for. Every year, we kind of do this list of like, here's what we think needs to be reprinted. And then we can compare that with what actually got reprinted. And just talk about overall what was the quality of reprints that they gave us.
So we got a lot of reprints this year. Many of them were in Commander Masters. A lot of those big ticket reprints that we did explicitly ask for last year did get reprinted in Commander Masters. Cyclonic Rift went from $36 down to $24.75. That's a big deal. Anything above 30 always feels like it hurts. And if we can get closer to 20, it feels more reasonable for those very powerful cards, even though that is still very expensive for a Magic card, of course. Deflecting Swat and Fierce Guardianship got their reprints, both of them down to $35.
Fierce Guardianship dropped almost half.
Huge amount.
64 to 35, basically.
Doubling Season got double hit this year from Commander Masters and Enchanting Tales. Went from $84.75 to $34.
I think the card's kind of overrated.
It is.
Super overrated. Yeah, it's not. Honestly, it's not even worth 34, but definitely wasn't worth 84.
Yeah.
Finale of Devastation went from 40 down to 25. Jewel Lotus didn't actually have a huge dip in terms of where it ended up because it went from $105 to $75.
It's still 30% decrease.
But that's still
pretty good.
I never want to pay $75 for a card though. That
not
hurts.
For Jeweled Lotus.
Not
either.
for Jeweled Lotus. Yeah.
Great Henge was started at $58.25, got reprinted in Commander Masters and got reskinned in Tales of Middle-earth.
Hard to get the Tales of Middle-earth version, though. Yeah, the Tales of Middle-earth version was hard to find.
I agree.
Still,
but like the fact that it got
reprints?
Yeah, one and a half reprints, and it is still $50.
That just shows the demand for that card. Though.
Yeah.
That card.
Maybe that card is a little too pushed.
It's good.
Why it's got to gain you life?
The Medallion Cycle, they were all over $10 and got reprinted in Commander Masters this year.
But some of them are still over $10.
They're still basically 10,
and some of them went up, right?
Yeah.
So Pearl and Sapphire are both 10, but Jet 16, Ruby's 19, Emerald is at 8, and I think we know why because there's so many ways to ramp in green. Yeah. But that's a example of cards getting reprinted and not going down.
Right.
Yeah, which does happen.
Yeah, there just aren't enough of those in rotation, and them getting printed at rare just didn't do enough.
It didn't keep up with inflation, basically.
Exactly.
Like they were going to go up even more, so I'm glad they got reprinted, but it didn't keep up with how much they were even going to go up. Yeah.
Yep.
Parallel Lives was a big one. It got its first reprint outside of like a Judge promo and is now $25 thanks to the Enchanting Tales. And Rhystic Study got a reprint in Enchanting Tales at Mythic, and it went from $33.75 to $40. Cool. That worked
it's
out.
It's because we play it too much.
It's because a bunch of people played it for the first time and we're like, man, this is awesome.
This card is ridiculous.
Another one of these.
I just drew 6 cards off of this thing.
That's so expensive.
Don't at me.
Yeah, don't at Josh. And speaking of reprints for next year, let's talk about the future of reprints because we have had quite a shift now in the way that WotC is approaching how they do reprints in general. Before it felt way more sparse and we used to only have like one of those big sets a year that was like, oh, this is the set. We're going to get all the modern reprints we want or whatever, the Eternal set, Eternal Masters. Now we have them all across the board. We have bonus sheets, we have Commander Precons, we have extra sets like Aftermath and stuff like that are possible areas for it. Not saying Aftermath was that this year. And you wrote this down, Rachel, but reprints have to be frequent to be impactful because we've already seen here, oh, this got a reprint, but it actually went up in price.
Right.
So having more cards in circulation is something that we also complain about and are a little grumpy about because it's like too much releases, too many cards to keep up with. But when it comes with reprints, it's like this kind of balancing act where it's like, it's nice to have more cards if it means more reprints. So we used to have like expeditions and invocations a long time ago, and they realized, oh, instead of making them super rare, let's make those much more available. So that's like the bonus sheets, the Multiverse Legends, Ixalan Special Guests, Enchanting Tales from Wilds of Eldraine. So I think that tactic right there is a really smart way of doing it. And now instead they like go, okay, we have a serialized card to be the expedition or the invocation of the set. Because those expeditions and invocations, especially the invocations like the Sol Ring and stuff, they're so prohibitively expensive now. But I could totally see that being as like the starter tester for like, what if we released an extra set alongside this to entice people to buy the set to get reprints? And I think that, to me, seems like a really solid way, both to enhance the limited format too sometimes, but just to get more reprints out there. So I'm happy for the bonus sets.
Yeah, I mean, I think them adding the bonus sheets really makes packs more fun for Commander players to open, because like as fun as it is to open Magic cards, like in most standard sets we weren't opening a card that's relevant
Doubling
to your
season,
you're not opening Doubling Season, you're not opening Skull Clamp, like of course not, they're not reprinting that into standard, but those cards need to be reprinted.
Right. Skull Clamp and standard make me throw up.
Yeah. Sorry. I didn't mean to.
I was coughed. I was coughed up a lung. Yeah.
Like those need to be reprinted, and we need safe spaces to do that. So then printing them on these bonus sheets that you can get in packs makes those products more appealing to Commander players, and generally puts more cards in circulation, which is a big deal for an ever-growing format.
Yeah.
Yeah, the bonus sheets are a big win for sure. More cards should mean more reprints. It kind of has, which I think is a good idea, and I like the direction that they're going at least. Yeah, it'd be nice. I think a lot of people would like them to just push a button and reprint all this stuff all at once, but it is hard to do.
Yeah, they did. It was Commander Masters.
Yeah.
But then they charged double for it?
Yeah.
Which kind of worked against...
Right.
Yeah.
That's not what reprints are for. You're supposed to be able to get them cheaper.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's the reprint part.
I think to be fair, Commander Masters did lower the price on a number of cards, but it didn't completely crater them. And I think there's a delicate balance, and I think we're going to touch on this later. But there is a delicate balance in that one of the things that makes Magic what it is people buying cards with the peace of mind that is, quote unquote, an investment. And I don't mean an investment in the way that like MTG finance people will buy a bunch of cards with the idea of I'm going to sell these cards for more money later. I mean investment as a normal player, which is like I'm going to buy this thing and it's going to retain its value to the point where like if I need to offload it later,
I still can.
I can at about the price or maybe a little bit more, but maybe just a little bit less than I acquired it, because nobody wants to buy, like a car if you drive it off the lot and it's worth $0 the minute that you put the key in the ignition. You want it to retain value over time so that when you want to get a new car or something else happens in your life, or you
trade it in.
Hey, listen, I need a 4-door because I had a kid and a 2-door doesn't work anymore. I need a truck because I need to haul things or whatever it is. I can now trade in my car and it retains a lot of its value.
Yeah.
And I think that, they don't want to be creating the game in such a way that like they take Cyclonic Rift and just turn it down to $5 at the snap of a finger. And they're doing that all the time, because now it's a totally different prospect when I'm buying, booster packs and pre-con decks and paying X amount of money for them. I don't think most people want to know that like I'm going to spend this $50 and it is just gone. I want to know that like some amount of it I can retain, and liquidize if I have to at some point. So I think that's the game they're playing, and they're playing in the margins, and they got to be a little careful, and we may have gone in the wrong direction a little bit as far as some of that's concerned.
Yeah, and I would say this is the year where way more Magic players have joined than any other year in recent history. And so anything to keep prices down will entice more players to come in. And we had a huge price boom during the pandemic, which I think scared a lot of people off, made a lot of people really happy. And then when that price went back down, some of those like hardcore collectors, hold on, gonna sell them, were like, oh no, this sucks, I can't believe it. But I think overall it's going to always be a win when the game is more accessible, because we have more players than ever, and choking people out of the game instead of allowing them to play with the cards that when you go in and play in a player group and everyone has a Cyclonic Rift, it's going to feel bad when you don't have access to cards that either combat it or are on that same power level without paying a huge sum. So reprints at least help buffer that zone as well and make those feels not so bad.
Yeah, and I think what we're asking for is not necessarily that cards be $5 or $6. We're asking them that they're like...
not 30.
They're like 20 or they're 15, or they're like powerful cards often come with a price tag in Magic, but when all of them have a price tag, it feels like, well, I can't build a deck that's good because every single card in this deck is $40.
Yeah,
it's okay for the one-off card to be $50 because it feels special and it's like, I have this card and it's cool and it's powerful and it's worth a lot to me. But when it's all the cards in your deck, that's bad because ultimately that just keeps people out of the format. So I think that's what affordability should mean is like, sure, it's fine that there's some, you hold those in reserve, you use them as carrots to get people to buy products. That's totally fine. That makes business sense.
You upscale them to Mythic is literally how they hold them as carrots,
but
right?
let's keep that number low. So there's a lot of stuff we need to be reprinting to keep that number in check because it seems, in danger of growing over time if you're not careful. Because if you can't reprint enough to keep up with the amount of important reprints that are coming, then that gallery is increasing every year. That's now you're on the wrong side of that equation and that'll be bad. So
Yep.
And I will say, we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but Wizards has announced that they are going to continue to do special guest sheets. So
Nice.
as they do...
Which have been sweet.
They're awesome. And the ones for Ixalan are really cool, and there's like new art for all of these characters that we love, and it's like it's this guy, but he's on Ixalan. And you're like, what? Cool. Now it matches my Merfolk deck. Or that. So they have announced that that's going to continue. They've also overhauled how they're going to do the list in 2024, which the list was like a huge list of 300 cards.
Some of them
and
so
you could
random,
maybe get one of them, but if you do, it's probably a common.
Yeah.
and like they just didn't count for reprints, right? But they have taken the list and they've cut it down for each set. There's going to be like 40, 50 cards on the list, and it's a curated list. So hopefully there'll be more of those, and that'll be a more meaningful reprint. We'll find out next year.
And then we have the new booster type.
Yeah, play boosters.
We will talk about as well, which may be a
big
big thing that affects, again, prices down the line.
Ooh.
Yeah, we are going to talk about the new play boosters. We're going to talk about the biggest controversies, the biggest successes and failures. The Pinkertons. We're definitely going to talk about the Pinkertons.
And some Secret Lairs.
Yep, and that will all be right after we get back from these messages.
Woohoo!
What's up, Jimmy? Are you doing some sort of early New Year's or something?
Nah, I'm just still celebrating how much fun our first ever Whatnot stream was.
Oh yeah, that was a blast. If you haven't heard of Whatnot, you got to check it out.
Whatnot is a live shopping platform. It's a great place to hunt for rare and unique collectibles, or just grab some sweet cards for your next commander deck.
And what's even better is you get to do it all while hanging out with the community in a live stream setting.
Yeah, maybe you get a cool version of a card, but you're buying it from Ashlyn or the Professor or us. And maybe we even sign it before we send it if that's what you want. That's the type of interaction that can happen only on Whatnot.
Yeah, honestly, it makes buying cards sometimes more fun than playing them.
And it's not just Magic. They've got sports cards, sneakers, comic books. If it's a collectible, you can find it on Whatnot.
So get in on the action right now at whatnot.com/invite/command.
That way you can make sure you're there the moment we start our next stream.
And to top it off, you'll even get $15 free to use anywhere on the site just for signing up through our link.
And if that's not cause to party, I don't know what is. Woohoo! Yo, we should give these away on stream.
Jimmy, these were just in our mouths.
Oh, yeah, you're right. That's gross.
Take that, you sugary son of a... Oh, hello. You caught me in the middle of work. I'm Greta, Sweet Tooth Scourge, and holidays are my busy season. Look, I spend too much time struggling with food already, so when I get home, I want a meal that's quick, easy, and delicious. That's why I use Factor, America's #1 meal delivery service. With Factor, you'll get fresh, flavor-packed meals that show up right at your door and aren't trying to kill you. You minty moron! Yeah! Just choose from any of their 35-plus, never-frozen, chef-crafted meals that only take 2 minutes to prepare. It's perfect for a busy holiday schedule, and not just for dinner. They've got quick breakfast options, lunch to go, and even grab-and-go snacks. Personally, I'm a fan of their home-style turkey and herb gravy. You'll forgive me if I skip dessert. So get Factor and save time this holiday season without wasting money on takeout and drive-thrus. That way you'll avoid my nemesis, fast food. Can't catch me! Ha-ha! Get back here, you stupid cookie!
Head to factormeals.com/command50 and use code command50 to get 50% off. That's code command50 at factormeals.com/command50 to get 50% off. All right, my new deck list is complete. Now, let's see which cards I don't already own and buy them.
Wait, how'd you do that without going through a million boxes?
Oh, I just use ARCHIDEKT. They make it super easy to upload and manage your collection. Then, when you're done brewing a deck, you can sort it by collection status to see what you already have.
So this group is just cards you don't own?
Yep, I just click buy this stack, and it takes me right to Card Kingdom.
Whoa.
ARCHIDEKT is the best place to browse, brew, and playtest commander decks. Just go to archidekt.com/command zone to get started.
That's ARCHIDEKT.com/command zone. Okay, we're back.
Woohoo!
And we're talking about everything 2023, the year in review for Magic.
Secret Lair.
We've talked about so many Magic cards, and we haven't even addressed one of the most frequent products that comes out in the year.
Yeah, I keep up with all the Secret Lairs, and there were a lot of Secret Lair drops this year, including some first-timers in, like, again, mechanically unique cards. We are just past the point of controversy on mechanically unique cards from IPs. We had Dungeons & Dragons.
Remember Walking Dead?
Yeah.
Which was
Remember
like,
Rick?
The sky is falling. It's going to end Magic.
Yeah, and now we're like, the Dungeons and Dragons movie.
They
Also,
just
Lara Croft.
pelted us into submission. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just pelted us into submission.
They're like, yeah, this is happening. Is basically what happened.
Yeah, it's like snow. It's like hail. You know, after the first golf ball sized hail drops, you're like, everyone, look at how big that piece of hail was. And then after it keeps hailing, you're like, it's just normal now.
Yep.
To be fair, they really controlled the power level on the mechanically unique ones.
Yes.
The big danger with mechanically unique ones is that they print something that's so crazy powerful that it needs to go in everything. Yeah. And they really haven't hit that yet.
Everyone's like thinking about like true name Nemesis is like what they're afraid of.
For
but
sure.
we're not at that point. Yeah.
So we got a lot of Secret Lairs this year. We're going to do one more by the number. 26 Secret Lairs came out in 2020. 46 came out in 2021. 70 came out in 2022. How many Secret Lairs do you think came out in 2023?
I don't like these because it makes me look like I don't know what I'm talking about.
I mean, it's tough. There's a lot.
I got to be honest. I got numbed out a little by Secret Lairs this year. I didn't pay a lot of attention. Yeah. I just decided in my head, like, there's so much happening, and I'm going to, for the most part, ignore these because I just can't, I just can't hold that much stuff in my brain. So
I'm going to say 84.
Okay. Oh, I feel like it was less.
We had all these new collaborations though. Lara Croft, Evil Dead, the
Creep Show,
Princess Bride. Yeah,
you make a good point. Maybe it's because of my numbness, but I'm going to say 52. 52.
Down from 70?
That's what I'm going to say.
Okay.
I don't know.
I hope I'm wrong.
I'm just being bold because
if it's 80, I will cry.
Josh is correct. It's 55.
Whoa! Wait, how did we have so many more last year?
Came down 15
Holy
Secret
moly.
Lairs this year, which I think is good. I like looking at Secret Lairs. I like logging on and scrolling through and be like, none for me, thank you, and closing my laptop.
Yeah.
And this year it felt like there was two that I really liked, and I bought them, and that was that.
2 all year?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, there's 52 weeks in the year.
Yeah.
55 is about one per week.
Yeah, still plenty.
Yeah, that's still a lot. Yeah.
I'm amazed that we had 70 last year. I wonder what happened that was such a big difference maker. I could have swore they would have just kept cranking this number up.
They didn't sell as many.
Yeah, maybe.
Throwing a lot of spaghetti.
Yeah.
I think with the 70, they really learned a lot. I think they were trying a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
And this one, they maybe zeroed in a lot. We had a lot more crossovers than we
this
did
was like
in
the crossover
2022.
year.
Lord of the Rings, Doctor Who, Princess Bride, Creepshow, Jurassic World, Mountain Goats, Evil Dead, Ponies the Galloping. And then they did a ton of them that were per artist.
Yep.
Right.
So just like Magic's most favorite artists for the most part, but some like more specific ones that you don't get to see a ton from. Like obviously classics like Dan Fraser,
John
Avon, Rebecca Gay, Elena Danner. Gary Baseman was one that I wasn't familiar with and had a very cool Secret Lair this year. And Ryan Alexander Lee, I wasn't familiar with.
They also did the full Commander decks, so they had 2 this year. I think they only had 1 last year.
They've only done one ever before, which was the coin flip.
The coin flip deck, which took a million years to make.
Which took a million years to manufacture.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's From Cute to Brute, and then there was Angels. They're just like us, but cooler with wings, which is the mono white angel deck.
Yeah, so these were full deck Secret Lairs. So technically there were 27 precons that came out this year.
Aha!
I don't know. Are those precons? It's hard to say.
No, yeah.
These were very popular. I saw a lot more of these than I thought I was going to.
Yeah. I mean, I built a deck off the Angels one. I think a lot, and I saw a couple of comments that other people had done the same too.
Right.
So I used it like a precon.
Yeah, I used it like a precon, replaced maybe like 20 cards in it, and it was sweet. And the cards that were unique had beautiful art. There were like, I think 9 or 10 of them, and then all the planes were different, were like unique arts as well.
Cool.
And a lot of the cards were just cards that, and they even found time to reprint some cards that had never been printed before in paper, it only existed online or whatever. So there's some interesting areas too where it's like, oh cool, like they actually had some venues to make some interesting things happen within the decks.
I think there was a Shadow Spear reprint in one of the decks. Like they did sneak some pretty good reprints into these. And overall it seemed like the value, like the card value was very solid compared to the actual price of
the unique box art on like the Angels ones. All those cards are real. In fact, just the new cards with art almost equal the price, or if not more than the price of the actual full deck.
And that's not including all of the list ones that were they Planeswalkers stamped all of the other cards in the deck.
Yeah.
I like that those decks are like quite good right out of the box. Like I've played against Cute to Brute a few times. It also tells you exactly what it is, so you know, and the deck's good. Like you gotta watch out. So yeah, I like that part of it. It's a little more than a precon where you pull it out, and in most environments, like precon's gonna be a little underpowered.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was definitely a higher price point. They were like, what, 105 or something like that?
Yeah.
So more than what we normally get for precons, but the value was really there in terms of what you got, and then in all of the unique art on top of that.
Yeah.
I really liked these. I thought it was a cool way to like sneak one more product in to show off like, somebody from R&D's deck. Like I loved the coin flipping one was Gavin's, and he got to make choices about that.
Yeah.
Like that feels very personal and cool to me. And they don't necessarily have to like tie it thematically to a set.
Yeah. And then like, again, they had artist features as well.
Yeah.
Right. So it kind of combines a lot of it together.
So with 55 Secret Lairs this year and all of the different treatments we've gotten this year, there has been Magic cards look crazy these days. Like there's
it's like some opening you could like people have been crafting like fake opening hands with just and it's like, wow, you are really looking at an incongruous group of cards in your hand.
They're all over the place. And I wanted to give a little bit of perspective on this because it blew my mind seeing them all in one place. These are all of the foils and treatments that we've got this year. It's Cosmium Neon Ink cards, Oil Slick foils, Step and Complete foils, Halo foils, Confetti foils, Surge foils, Etched foils, textured foils, which I honestly I don't know what it is. I cannot tell the difference. And then we had the foils with the Jurassic Park emblem on them.
Right.
Those are just foil treatments.
Those are just the foil treatments from this year.
Yeah.
Jeez,
Notably, like the confetti foil, if you look at it at the same angle as the Halo foil, they'll look identical or whatever. They look very similar, but it's really this next one that makes the cards look wildly different.
So the art styles and the actual frames of the cards, so the borders and stuff, varied as well.
Well, a lot more, honestly.
Yeah.
We had retro frames, Enchanting Tales frames, TARDIS frames, Scroll Showcase frames from the Holiday Edition, Living Legends frames, which was from Ixalan, and then we had separate frames for more than a dozen of Magic's most popular planes. We got an individual one for Tarkir and for Ravnica and for...
At least some of them matched like the old showcase frames,
matched the old
right?
ones, so they didn't
But
introduce
some of them, but there were
new ones. But then we saw extended art and borderless art that included concept freighters, Icor showcase cards, manga showcase cards, anime art cards, which were separate from the manga showcase cards, poster art, panorama scenes, profile showcase cards from Commander Masters, Oltec cards, which are Mesoamerican inspired ones from Ixalan, the dinosaur scientific illustrations, Ixalan special guests, and more. I didn't even mention that we had Phyrexian language cards that came out in all but one. Yeah. There are Universes Beyond reskins of many, many different kinds, and of course, the 55 Secret Lairs.
You know, if the editors decide to show all of these on screen at once, your eyes might start bleeding.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing that looks like an old Magic card is retro frames.
Right.
Some of the frame treatments for the planes are like okay, as far as like they don't look too far.
They're not super off base.
Like the Ixalan ones just kind of has like gems and stuff on it, but the Ravnica one has the whole city on the side of it.
Yeah.
There's some really wild treatments that they've introduced, and it's made Magic it looks really cool.
Just a single card I can show someone and be like, whoa, cool. Yeah. Whereas maybe not the same for old Magic cards.
Right.
But I do feel like it's becoming harder for players to just open cards and be like, cool, I'm just going to build a deck with the cards I open if they want to go for like, I want my deck to look at least similar to itself.
Like cohesive.
Cohesive, yeah. So I think that is something that is a new deck building thing that people have to take into consideration, where it's sometimes the cheapest version of a card that you're going for actually looks wildly different than the rest of your cards. Do you mind that? Mm-hmm. And are you willing to pay more for cards that all look the same, or do you not care, or do you think it's cool to have different kinds of showcases and treatments to everything?
Yeah. I mean, it means that Commander and Magic in general is as customizable as it's ever been. You can really show off like your style when you're building a deck. And it's more than just what cards you're putting into it. It's what versions of cards, or like, what foils of cards. And it also means that we have introduced so many different versions of one single card that it has become very difficult to tell what a card is at a distance.
Yeah.
Like in these,
there's so many times when someone plays a card and I know what it is, but because it's a new everything, I have to read it still. I'm like, wait, I actually know what this card does, but I had no idea what it was when you played it.
Like some of these cards that you look at, you're like, these are cards that I know the original art for, but if I saw this Thalia and the Getrog monster across the table from me, I'd be like, you got to show, what card is that? Never mind. I actually do know that one. And it means that Commander is a little bit trickier to play.
Yeah.
It makes the cards that we're used to playing against more difficult to recognize across the table from you. And I wanted to ask you guys, how do you think this affects the accessibility of Commander from like a new player perspective?
Yeah, I don't know about the new player thing. It's, I think we go to the new player thing a lot because it bolsters arguments in the theoretical, right? But we're not new players. It's hard to say. I can only speak to myself, which I find it pretty annoying. Only in that, like Jimmy said, or like you said, there's oftentimes cards on the table that I do know what they do, but I don't realize they're even there.
Right.
And then, the process of like, I asked to look at your card, I look at it, I read it, I put it back down, I clock that it's there, and then later I make a mistake because I'm thinking about 50 million things because it's a Commander game and there's 4 players and all the battlefields are big. And yes, I know what your card does, but when I glance around, my brain doesn't clock it.
Yeah.
Because there's just not a singular version of the card that stands out. Like, we used to sort of be able to just tell by glancing at a board mostly what's there, and you just can't do that anymore. It causes moments where you're like, you do something, they're like, I have this, it triggers that. And I'm the type of player, I hate to like too much be like, oh, never mind. So a lot of times it's just like, okay, cool, yeah, that happened, and I'm an idiot for not remembering that was there because I did ask to look at it, but at the same time, like,
I can't remember it now.
yeah, and every card's got 2 sides and 4 paragraphs, and it's like, how much am I expected really to retain in my head all at once? And is that what I want the game to be about? Do I want the game to be about how much can I remember? Or not? And so I do find that part of it to be frustrating. The customizable part is great, but like, hey, the biggest company in the world right now is Apple, and their design philosophy was the opposite of PCs and Intel, which was customizable versus I'm going to make a design thing that is focuses your, the way you see things in the way that we want you to see it. Yeah. And then both companies are successful, but that doesn't mean that one is just inherently better than the other. So for me, I don't like this thing. I liked when special things were special, and now it's almost like the special thing is the Magic card looking thing now.
Right.
Like, I would pay more money for the one that looks like a regular Magic card. And maybe they're getting us to that point where we'll just flip the whole thing on its head, and the special thing will be like, look, it looks like a Magic card.
Like, whoa.
That's the expensive one. I want that.
That's the whole retro frame thing, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm the kind of person that will typically at a table, because no one else is willing to do it, be the lawyer and the rules person that goes, oh, don't forget that does that does that. So this makes that job even harder.
Yeah.
And the most calories you burn in a day is from your brain. And when you sit down to a table and the first game you play is already going to exhaust you, like, you actually want to play less games after that, because it's like, it's such a mental task. I don't want to run on a treadmill while playing Magic the Gathering each time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I want to say we've played with people, Jimmy, and one of the things they'll tell us, because we've been doing this for years, is, man, you guys keep track of triggers like nobody's business. Like, that's how we play. So when I say I don't like it, it's because I'm used to being able to keep track of every single thing and know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's not usual for me to miss one, but it's become usual in the last couple of years because of this, which is frustrating, right? It's just a transition I have to make, maybe. Yeah.
Well, now it's kind of like, well, I'm just going to trust you on that.
Yeah.
What does that do? And they give you a paraphrase for it. You're like, sure, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Let's keep playing. Oh, no, I lost to that. Do I really care? Did I want to make that extra effort this time and all? Just doesn't, but every single time, I'm getting less interested in that, I guess.
Something from a consumer perspective, as somebody who's like, I want the version that I want for the deck that I want it. I am less likely to open packs these days, because even if I open the card that I wanted,
it won't be in the version you want.
It won't be in the version I want.
Yeah.
And the likelihood that I open, like, just the regular non-foil old board, like regular border one that I wanted.
It's even less than before.
Is way less.
The likelihood I get the regular version is less.
Yeah. And I have certain decks that I'm like, this is an old border deck. I want to put the old border versions in this deck. So if I want a card for that one, I want the old border version, which means I'm going to buy singles. It's just like, I'm not opening packs anymore, because the likelihood that I open the card and still end up buying the single is pretty high for me.
Yeah. It's a lot to keep track of, and I am just at the trust me bro point.
Yeah.
I am a lot too.
Just tell me what it does, and sure, I believe it.
Yeah.
Some games you end, you're like, uh-oh, we definitely didn't do that right, but let's just play another one.
Yep, exactly.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Well, the next topic here is 2 universes and beyond.
Beyond.
This was a really big year for Universes Beyond. Probably the biggest year ever for it.
Yeah.
It's like they had all of these in the works. Like the lawyers were all trying to craft the contracts, and they finally figured out how to template them, and then they all got them to execute the same year.
I think, yeah, they've been practicing. They got better at it. We had a combination of reskin stuff, Princess Bride, Lara Croft Tomb Raider, and then, mechanically unique cards mixed in there, Dungeons and Dragons, Honor Among Thieves, My Little Pony, Doctor Who, Lord of the Rings, of course. How do we feel about... Well, should we just cut straight to the big thing here? I think we should.
Yeah.
Sure.
How do we feel about Universes Beyond moving forward with a big... I was going to say Batman, but it's not Batman.
No, it's the Captain America shield.
Yeah, Captain America shield. It's the Avengers headquarters.
With a big spotlight on Marvel, which is the huge looming thing we know about.
Does it mean they can't do DC?
No, I don't think it doesn't mean they can't do DC.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they can't they can't mix those IPs for sure.
Yeah,
they might not be able to do both at the same time or something. But
there's an exclusivity window.
Yeah, there could be. We don't know what the contract.
Marvel's clearly the bigger of the two.
Oh, yeah.
And we have also next year Fallout, Assassin's Creed, Final Fantasy. I think is next year as well.
Final Fantasy. I think it's 2025.
But it's still we know it's coming.
But it's announced. Yeah,
we have the really big franchises now hitting the table. Marvel and Lord of the Rings. Yeah, Marvel and Lord of the Rings are at the tippy top right now.
Star Wars for sure coming.
Yeah,
they haven't announced it, but 100% is going to happen. Star Trek, that's going to happen. Like,
yeah.
As soon as you saw the Marvel promo, what's the first thing you thought?
Oh no,
the Marvel promo.
Ian Malcolm Chaotician was truly the beginning of
this
the end.
Well, like Rachel, you were scrolling Twitter, you stopped, and that video was playing. What'd you think?
It was inevitable.
Yeah.
I wasn't surprised. I wasn't surprised.
Well, I'm Iron Man.
I'm Iron Man.
Sorry.
That's going to be a card for sure. I am Iron Man. Oh my gosh.
And it's like it's an emblem that turns you into Iron Man.
I just, you know what?
We could talk about if they're going to be able to use the movies, which I bet they won't. But
probably not.
Yeah,
it's probably just comic books.
Sorry, I want to hear Rachel's reaction to when you saw it.
I mean, I knew.
It sounds resigned.
I knew this was coming, and I think that's fine. The thing about Universes Beyond is when it's an IP that you're excited about and that you know really well, you're like, yes, that rules. Oh my gosh, I feel so seen. I'm so excited to see every card. When there's an IP that you don't know or you don't care about or you actively don't like, suddenly you're forced to deal with this huge thing that you're like, I don't know anything about this. Oh my God, okay. And it becomes more of a chore to deal with. And I think Marvel is something that I know reasonably well because of the movies and because of just the general impact of on culture. But it's not something, like, I didn't read the comic books. I didn't it was never my thing. So, like, when I see something like Princess Bride, I'm like, oh my God, yeah, I buy all of them. But when Marvel's coming, I'm like, yeah, well, that's one more thing that we'll have, Spider-Man on, which is fine.
I'm going to have to know what Spider-Man does because he's going to be attacking me sometimes.
Yep. He's going to be slinging some webs at you, dude.
What'd you think, Jimmy, when you saw that?
I just went, oh, yeah, there it is. Well, I was wondering when it was going to get here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I thought about it from like, wow, so we're already at the sort of biggest thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? Like we went from Lord of the Rings and Doctor Who, which are large properties, but on the pantheon of biggest properties in the world, they're not in the top, 5 probably. They're not up there with Marvel and Star Wars and the really big ones that
Disney.
that everybody
Mickey Mouse.
Everywhere around the world.
Oh gosh, MTG.
Lord of the Rings
Mickey.
is closer to that than Doctor Who, but
Yeah.
Marvel is the biggest.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, okay, so we're at the biggest one already.
Yeah. I think as a set, it feels very daunting and very exhausting. But then I'm like, what's Wolverine gonna do?
Well, it's a multi-year deal. There will be multiple sets. I don't know.
They release an X-Men set, I will lose my mind.
Yeah, I don't know. We don't know how the deal's structured. Yeah, but maybe they do that. We don't know how they're going to use the IP, but it's good. It's not going to be a one-time, one-set thing. This is a multi-year thing.
It may as well just be called Marvel the Gathering at this point, right?
Marvel the Gathering.
Because it feels like
Marvel
with the
Magic.
amount that's going to be released, it could be its own standalone card game. Mm-hmm. Right?
Well, I was talking about this with Rachel, and I think this right now, this transition period we're in requires a mind shift from thinking about Magic as a game that you like, as I don't know, Metal Gear Solid.
Uh-huh.
Instead, think of it as PlayStation.
I see.
And
it's
it
a
just
platform.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it has a Marvel game in it. It's got a Lord of the Rings game in it. It's got you can draft, you can play a 60 card format, you can play Commander. It is a platform by which many different games can be played upon it, and some of them have Spider-Man in it, and some of them have Aragorn, some of them have both.
Yeah.
Some of them have neither. And that is just kind of the era we're moving into. And I think formats can evolve too. And then we may come into an era, and probably will, where there will be restrictions of like no Universes Beyond allowed in this format, and only Universes Beyond over here, and only
Just
superhero
Marvel
formats, and only high fantasy formats, and only people will come up with these things. And I think,
or just even their own
Yeah.
deck building restrictions, right?
Yeah.
Right.
yeah. So I think and Commander may be a piece of that puzzle, and there may be different versions of Commander, but I think we're moving in the direction of let's think about Magic as PlayStation and not as a game on the PlayStation.
I've been saying this for a while, but I've always said Magic is just basically a rule set.
Yeah.
It is a set of rules that you can implant any cards into. And before it used to be, on Reddit, people would make their own fan sets of Star Wars, and they would do the whole, like, New Hope, all the characters and stuff. Now Wizards is just basically taking that mantle from the fans and just doing it themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, like, all of this sounds really big and like a huge change, and it is. It's it's a game warping change, but for me, it's pretty exciting. I think Magic has gotten to the point where it's like, there's only so many ways we can write scry, and
surveil, scry.
They were running out.
Yep.
You could look at it and put it in the bin, or you could look at it and put it on the bottom, or you could look at it and
put it back
put
in
it
another order.
On
Put
your
it
head.
third from the
I don't know. They're working on it. But like I
if
said,
you knew the answer to that question, she'd be an R&D.
just making unsets. Rachel keeps putting cards on her head. I don't know. She's made a secret library as long as you balance it.
Use a
Scheherazade.
Yeah. It's
restart the game.
it's exciting to me creatively wise.
Creatively, I think it is interesting.
It's
for
cool.
what you said earlier,
Yeah,
which is like, what does
opportunities.
Gandalf do? Wizards has never come up with a card that is Gandalf the Grey.
Right.
And now
that
they have to
makes
create that around
each
the story.
card like an exciting little story. Like, I love top-down design. I think that's the best part of Magic, right?
Yeah.
When you see a card that makes sense and you're like, I get it, because the wall comes up and all the goblins get washed away.
Yeah.
Cool. And Universes Beyond is like the perfect opportunity for top-down design.
Yeah.
It is going to add many, many layers of complication. And that is something that we are going to have to, work with. The thing that is most daunting to me is, like, professionally, I'm going to have to figure out what Fallout is. But that's my
There's gonna be a
problem.
TV
And
show.
only
Yeah, it's a TV show. Go check that out. I'm thinking about Marvel Snap now. And one of the big things about Marvel Snap that makes it so popular are the card variants. And something I didn't mention earlier, but with all of the different types of cards that are available, one upside to all of this that I don't think anyone's really talked about is that artists more than ever have an opportunity to be on a Magic card.
It's awesome.
And these last few years, we should do another stat for this, is how many new artists have been commissioned for Magic.
I
heard
love
one
that.
time that like 70% of all fantasy art was made for Magic the Gathering. I feel like that number is just cranking up and up. But it is cool because it means that, Wizards is making more money, blah, 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 but that money is also going into communities like art communities.
Oh, it's awesome.
And there are so many different types of variants that you can do for regular cards, but also for the Marvel world. That means more and more artists are going to be introduced into it, more showcases in this world. So there is some upside, I think, in terms of like, cool, we get to see really cool art, really cool new things. And this is, after all, a collectible card game. But it does change the core of what the game is. So I think if you're a purist, you're not going to have a great time. But if you're just someone coming to the game in the last 5-10 years, and even like 5 years maybe, this will be Magic as you know it. And it will be exactly what it's going to be. Magic the War. It's going to be everything the Gathering. PlayStation the Gathering, I guess.
Well, I'd say if you're a
Marvel
purist,
the Assembly.
you carve out your pure little corner if you want to. And we should probably think about that more now, which is like, I think there's probably a couple of simple restrictions that can keep it within the realm of at least high fantasy for you.
Yeah. And maybe there's communities to be built too around that are self-sustaining, that aren't trying to hurt other communities, and other communities aren't trying to hurt it. They just want to be in their little world, right? And everyone's going to want to have their own little world at some point too. This is becoming literally, everyone's trying to make the metaverse. Magic's doing it in cards, right?
Yeah. I feel like that it's working already. Like for me, for Lord of the Rings, I built the 4 precons and I upgraded them as much as I possibly could in the world of Lord of the Rings. And it made me want to just be like, you know what? I'm going to build a pony one, and that'll go in there too. And I'm going to build a this, and that'll go in there too.
Yeah.
And then I'll have like 10 Lord of the Rings decks that all play in a Lord of the Rings universe.
You can have a Lord of the Rings game night. And as long as you know how to play Magic, you can have fun.
You can come.
Yeah.
And that is really fun and exciting for me. But yeah, I think it is going to be about making the game what you want it, and the more customizable the game is, the more you can set your own boundaries as well.
Yeah,
and just like PlayStation, like I don't just play one PlayStation game ever for the sometimes so you can have a few different things, and on this night you're doing that, and the next night you're doing that, because
you could be the PlayStation player that just likes FPS competitively with other people, or the one that plays party games. And maybe that's also what's going to happen with playgroups, is that you can begin to customize your playing experience as it pertains to Magic.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
All right, moving on to our next topic here, which is the Rules Committee. And I think we have to start by honoring a guy who unfortunately passed away this year, Sheldon Menery.
Yeah.
Yeah. We lost him on September 7th of this year. He was the de facto leader of the format, and we did a whole tribute and episode to him before. Obviously we miss Sheldon a lot, and he was the godfather. He's the reason we're even sitting here. So first off, all respect to Sheldon. But also, we're in the first period in the history of the format, really, where the leader's not there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is, I think, reasonable for us to sort of talk about where that leaves us, how we think the team, which, to be fair, Rachel and I are a part of, have done in the interim, and how we expect and hope that it's going to sort of function moving into the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the Rules Committee expanded last year, and then with Sheldon leaving, that leaves an entirely new structure for them to figure out. That leaves an entirely new, I think Sheldon was really set the tone and had a very clear vision, and that was a big part of his role, was knowing Commander.
And I think it's fair to say that Sheldon was, they were equals. Everybody's got a vote and everything, but Sheldon was, everybody knows, I think, the leader, and there was some deferment because of it. And I think, not to say that like everything Sheldon said was the iron law or anything like that, but he carried a certain amount of weight even within the RC because of being around for so long and being there from the beginning.
It's like the captain on the ship. Everyone can row the boat by themselves, but the captain's like, let's edge a little bit to the left here.
Yeah, I think the captain makes it sound like he could just make an order and that's the way it goes. And I don't think it was exactly that, but I think it's fair to say that, Sheldon had a little bit of added weight behind him than everybody else has got. And, so that's a lot of change in a little bit of amount of time, right? 2 new people, the most important person. I feel bad because, Scott and Toby and Gavin are great and have been around for a long time and have a lot of say and really shape the format. But they allowed Sheldon to step forward and be the face, and for a reason. And so,
And the voice, the most people knew the voice of Commander was Sheldon. And he spoke with the power of the Rules Committee, and obviously spoke with all of their feelings and knowledge behind him. But not having that mouthpiece means that we're in a new era. Where there's going to be we probably need a new mouthpiece. We probably need a very clear direction of where we go from here. And we're in an interesting moment in Commander because there have been no major rules changes or bans in 26 months.
Yeah, over 2 years.
Months. The last major ban or rules change was when Golos was banned and when Worldfire was unbanned. And that was September 13th of 2021, so 26 months ago.
So more than 2 years.
More than 2 years. And that feels like a really long time. And I was looking back through the bans history to see kind of when those, how long those gaps tended to be. And it was usually between 9 months and a year. But there was one other gap that was this long, and it was between the Iona and Paradox Engine ban and the Painter Servant unbanned and Leo being banned and Protean Hulk being unbanned. There was 27 months between those two bans. So this kind of gap is not unprecedented, but it is the second longest we've ever had without a major rules change.
And if you compare this also to all of the statistics that show how many new cards are printed, how many new commanders are printed, that also should be, that adds to the weight of how long it's been. But that also says maybe R&D is doing a really good job. That also might say maybe the format is figuring out a way to come to terms with cards that feel too powerful and they're not crying for the bans as much.
It's really interesting because you would assume with more cards coming into the system that there's a higher chance of something being disruptive and needing to be banned.
Yeah.
But you could also say that as the format continues to grow, the amount of new cards coming in the system are a less percentage of what's already there and sort of create a smaller splash in a bigger pool and therefore would be less likely to need to be banned, right? So it's, who knows? Like, all I know is I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I think similar to R&D and what we talked about, this feels like maturity. It feels very measured. One of the things I always admired about Sheldon and the rules committee in general is, you know, they aren't really knee-jerk. They seem like a group of wise, you know, people who don't overreact to things and they aren't prone to like high levels of emotion. They make very measured and thoughtful. They think through, they deliberate. They don't just pull the trigger. They wait. They're willing to say, you know, maybe it is bad, maybe it's not. Let's talk again in a few months. Yeah. They take the long view. This is something that is not seen enough in leadership positions in general for anything. So,
well, because they're going to get reelected in 2 years.
Yeah, exactly. They don't have time. Yeah, maybe it is sort of the upside of no election process that the public is in on or anything like that. But for whatever reason, I like it. I don't know how the two of you feel
I like
about
it too. But if anything, with more cards in the pool and more time and also more players and more people playing at different levels, you could probably start unbanning a lot of things and not have it have an impact, or at least test it out. So let's unban this for a few months, see if it actually changes anything. And I think more often than not, it's going to be like, didn't change a thing.
I agree. I think that we've had so many new cards come in and we've had so many changes to Commander as a format. It's so much bigger. It's so much more accessible. It's like R&D designs for it. Commander has exploded in the last 3 years that I think we are in a point where the rules committee is going and the Commander advisory group is going to have to adjust our role in the format accordingly, because it's not. I'm less sure now than I ever have been of the cards on the ban list and maybe even the theory that has been applied behind all of the bans, because we haven't needed a ban in 26 months, which we've said is what, like 4,000 new cards?
Yeah.
Or something like that. Yeah. Many very powerful new cards.
Hundreds and hundreds of new commanders.
And the right now we're sort of trusting the format to self-select. And I'm not saying that is, I'm not in favor of a no ban list commander. I do not think that is a good thing for the format. But I do think that a role as the like rules committee body maybe should shift their relationship as being less of like the rules committee's relationship with the player base and more with its relationship with Wizards or its relationship with local game stores. Because I think the rules committee has less access to the player base than they ever have. It's so much bigger. It's so much less connected to like the format as it was originally created that it feels like you will have better communication with like heads of playgroups and stuff with game store owners or with Wizards who's designing. That'll be more effective communication than just banning a card that affects all of the player bases without knowing what's going on in their playgroup at all.
Yeah.
Like we had a comment recently where somebody requested that they were like, oh, I can't, like I keep waiting for the Dark Depths ban. And I was like, that is not a ban that I would, that's wild.
What? Yeah.
That will never be banned. But that does say to me that like something's going on in that playgroup, that Dark Depths is a real issue. And we'll never know that. We don't have that access to that playgroup. You know, like we're not going to be able to spot ban these things and be like and do it correctly for every single play group. So I think the rules committee needs to shift its relationship and be like, all right, this is how you run a casual game night, or this is how you build a positive play group in your area, or like, this is, these are the kind of cards that we like. Like those things are way more effective in shaping the format than just slapping a ban on the One Ring and hoping, people don't get mad about it.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think also as we see MagicCons continue to grow and as we see new ways for players to play in public as well as at home, that there is an interesting element to this, which is it enough at a commander area in the command zone to just have casual decks and right? They kind of separate into two right now. Do we need other ways to think about the format that allow players to find really the right play group? Because I think that's something about Commander that's really magical is when you really do find the right matching of decks and everyone chooses the right deck and they're at the
awesome.
It's incredible, right? If it's even some things are unbalanced, it can lead to a situation where someone might get salty or it just doesn't turn out the way they want it to. Because it's like you're building your own board game now every single time you sit down, and you are the designers because you've designed your deck. And you're hoping that the design philosophies of you are matching with the other ones in ways that make the interactions for the game interesting.
Right.
But there are a lot of times when, I think we've seen this when we like play with Posty and you don't bring a deck that's at that level. It's like, you're not going to have fun.
Yeah.
You'll have fun because you're playing with Posty, but you're not having fun because it's just like, wow, some people are driving Ferraris and you're driving an old Nissan.
Yeah.
So maybe there is a world where the RC can help contribute. This is a really dangerous conversation too, because it's like, are you hoping for the rules committee to create the culture of the game when it's the players that should be creating it, but maybe guidelines, maybe ways for people to think about the game or at least approach how they build their own community, how they create their own ban list should they need them, that allow players to have more, a more cohesive experience within at least their play groups or when they go to their store or a convention. To make it so that we are making sure that we've taken every step possible to give players the best chance at having a fun time playing the game.
Yeah, and having a fun time playing the game that they want to play, right? Like, because the rules committee's definition of fun is not the general player basis one. It's all, there's so many different versions. So teaching,
you don't want to tell CEDH players not to play CEDH if they like it.
Exactly.
Play that.
That's great. And the rules committee doesn't want to do that.
Yeah.
So what I think the rules committee and the Commander Advisory Group to some extent could be most helpful is communicating with MagicCons to be like, okay, how do we, is casual and competitive the best way to divide this up? Or is there a better process that'll get people into smart pods for their deck? And I think more energy being spent on that and less energy being spent on is this specific card going to be a problem is a better use of everybody's time.
Yeah. Although, to be fair, I don't think they actually spend a bunch of time on the ban list these days, and people focus on the ban list. But to me, the rules committee, there's another component, which is the rules. And they've made some great changes, like with the Commander Dies rules and being able to create color outside of your color identity type of rules in the past. And, I think they need to continue. Yeah, they need to continue to be able to make those changes to make new game design things work, to communicate with Wizards in that way is important. In many ways, more important than whether this or that card is banned or not.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I think overall, my hope for the RC moving forward is that they will continue their measured and sort of slow to act, deliberate pace. And there's going to need to be changes to the format from time to time, but I think in general it's been very well designed to self-police in a lot of ways and doesn't need a very active hand. And so I think the worst thing that could happen is for the new regime to come in and to decide they need to make splashes, they need to make changes. It's gotten to where it is with
well, Sheldon stewarded it right to a very specific thing, and I think that should be honored because it is clearly making things healthy.
Yeah, but he was a great leader, but he was not a strong as far as had a vision that he was pushing or an agenda a lot, right?
Yeah.
And the thing we liked about Sheldon as a leader was that he was mostly hands off and allowed it to mature and evolve as it would. And I hope they continue to do that.
And I personally believe in their ability. They got this.
Yeah.
They're doing a great job.
It is a bunch of great people and smart people.
Yeah,
so.
They're awesome. Okay. It's time.
Let's go to the fun stuff.
Controversies!
The biggest controversies of the year.
Towards the end of the video, so all of you people that would comment early, too late.
Yeah.
We've got some new things for you to comment on, but you've used your one comment for the episode.
Sorry, it's a new YouTube rule.
RC and YouTube, they're out of control. I gotta slow down.
All right, let's start with something we teased earlier, the Pinkertons.
Yeah, my goodness.
So, Rachel, spell out what happened.
Yeah, I'm going to look up the Pinkertons so we can get an official definition, too.
I only go from, what is it, Red Dead?
Red Dead Redemption.
they're controversial. They're a detective agency, essentially, that is like, has been modernized and changed a lot since, like, they built a reputation, is my understanding. But
the agency once specialized in railway theft cases, protecting trains and apprehending train robbers.
Aha!
They're a security
Bandanas.
agency.
Yeah, from the
investigative agency.
And that's where they started.
Yeah.
Private security agency.
They were sent to seize 24 boxes of leaked March of the Machine Aftermath product from a residential home, reportedly scaring one woman to tears. The cards showed up on a YouTube channel, Old School MTG, which spoiled dozens of unreleased Magic cards, specifically
you mean the whole
Aftermath
set, basically?
Yeah.
Cracking packs and showing them.
Yeah.
All 50 new cards.
It was believed that they got it in a mistake from the distributor, who just thought it was a March of the Machine product and sent out Aftermath product, which wouldn't be released for another few weeks. This caught a ton of flack, obviously, because it seems like they went a bit hard.
Yeah, the Pinkertons have a nasty reputation in the past, obviously.
Yeah, the bad guys in Red Dead.
They're the bad guys, yeah.
Yeah,
and
they're not the good guys.
They're not the good guys. And
in the video game, sorry. Maybe in the real world, I don't know.
Well, in the real world, there's been a lot of controversy about them as well. But one thing that the internet loves to do is conflate. And obviously, no one is hurt.
Yeah.
There was some crying. Maybe there's a little bit of post-traumatic stuff that happened, but no one died, right? But the Pinkertons have a very nasty history. And so the conflation was Wizards sent the literal nastiest people they could after these people for doing this thing. And it is awful that they did this. And that's where the controversy really blew up, which is like, was it ethical for Wizards to go to this length and this level, at least from the optics of it from the internet, to go after someone that had previewed just some cards ahead of time?
Yeah, that they got in...
Okay, spoiled, released, leaked.
Yeah,
not previewed, sorry.
It is also like... while it seems like this person got the product just by accident, they didn't like steal it or
they weren't trying.
That was the claim. They did know this was unreleased product and did release it to the internet that way.
Yeah, I mean, they said that in the video that I recall, which is something along the lines of, well, this isn't out yet, but I got it from this way, and so I'm going to show it. Yeah, it's interesting. I found the backlash to be kind of funny. I get it a little bit, but at the same time, first of all, Wizards is extremely lenient with their IP. Insanely lenient. If you've ever tried to work with something like Nintendo, who won't allow you to do anything, who will cease and desist just the mention of it. They're going to cease and desist us now because I said the name Nintendo. Show any footage or whatever. Like, they're very harsh. And other companies too. Marvel. I used to work on Marvel movies, and they will, like, in order to work on the Marvel movies, they'll send Secret Service FBI guys to talk to the people you know, like, as if you're getting recruited to the FBI or something.
To make sure.
They require specific video cameras in specific places. The computer that I'm editing the trailer for one of the Marvel movies on cannot be connected to the internet or anything outside of this room so that nobody could hack in and get any of the footage. Like, very heavy steps are taken by other large companies with IP in order to protect that IP because they know that the leaking of IP has a cost. It's just hard to quantify. But the excitement, the marketing, everything you've got planned, we're talking about billion-dollar companies here. And so I guarantee all that Wizards did was hire a third party, somebody to be like, listen, hire some sort of security firm. First of all, get that out of there.
Get the product from them.
Get the product. And then, hire a security firm and let's find out who it is. If there any criminal activity, what kind of charges can we press so that this doesn't happen again? So I think the Pinkertons just, if it would have been any other security firm, probably doesn't create the same amount of...
Yeah, the name for sure.
Yeah, that did it. But yeah, just being somebody in... the entertainment industry deals with a lot of IP issues. Like, this is kind of SOP. Like, it's standard operating procedure for many entities that are protecting their IP to sort of act in this manner when something pretty major happens.
Right.
Like, yeah.
We should read the quote. So this is what Old School MTG said according to the article on Polygon, which is, quote, "He was very apologetic about making my wife cry first thing in the morning by sending these heavy-duty lawmen to come collect stuff and talk about stolen products and jail time. But they don't believe we stole anything, which we didn't. I don't know if they believe anybody really stole anything or if it was just an accident or whatever, but they wanted the product back so they could try and figure out where the hole was so they could plug the hole." Which is pretty much exactly what you just said there, Josh. Major product leak. Where's the hole? Why is this happening? This cannot keep happening. This is ruining the marketing. There's a lot of money being lost here. This is a whole set release. It also happens to be the crappiest set release of the year
Yeah,
according to a
yeah.
lot of people. But hey,
This is what did it.
this is what did it. Yeah, and I agree. If it was literally anyone but the Pinkertons, if it was just
Yeah, it wouldn't
some
have
random
been anything.
third-party security agency, this controversy would not have happened. But the internet is infamous for being able to do this with anything. And WotC, right? Like, people are looking for reasons to diss and to
Get mad about it.
create controversy about something. So it was a kind of a perfect storm in that regard. Now, was it right? That's not what I'm really here to talk about. But standard operating procedure makes sense. They had to get these products back. They had to figure out where to plug the hole.
What do you want them to do? What is reasonable?
Yeah, what is reasonable? Nothing. Well, nothing is definitely not reasonable. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to get. I mean, you have to go get the cards, right? Like,
gotta
'cause
see
you can't
that-
have them in
You need
like,
a
floating
trusted
out.
person that you can hire to go get the cards that is able to do this and has a history of doing similar things.
You need to get them not only because like you don't want them out there because the product's not out yet, but also because you need to see all of the, where did these come from? What factory?
Yeah.
We need to. It's just like
There's a lot
contact
of-
tracing for like for like COVID or something. You're like, okay, so who was the last known person we know where this would have been? Let's go talk to that person, see what happened. Let's get security camera footage. Let's try and make sure this doesn't happen next time. It was less obviously about punitive stuff for this guy because they didn't really do anything to him.
Yeah.
It was more about let's find out who's actually like the leak and let's try and make it not happen. Now they're not very good at that because it keeps happening, but that is what you would do. Anybody would do that, right?
Yeah.
Like let's say that something we don't have any high value IP stuff, but let's say we had big plans for something, it got leaked. Yeah, we'd be mad at the person that leaked it. Of course, that's just natural. But the real thing we would want to do, stop the leak from happening and then figure out where it got leaked, who did it, where that's coming from, so that we know we have peace of mind. Hey, anything else we're coming up with doesn't just fall out the leak again.
Yeah, and the reason that you use private security is because if you go to the law enforcement with this, it will take a year to even get anywhere with it. Yeah, so you have to hire that's how
you have to press charges for the police to really do anything also, and that's clearly not what they wanted to do,
They
right?
just
Like
wanted the
let's
product,
figure out how to
Yeah. So bummer for old school MTG, but they also knew what they were doing, and as a result, you're going to see the consequences
Isn't
of
it
the
a bummer
action.
for old school MTG? I feel like they did just fine with all that. Exactly, probably what they wanted
Bummer
to
for
happen.
old school
right?
MTG's wife.
Yeah.
Right first thing in the morning. We're
Yeah.
sorry,
Yeah.
old school MTG's wife.
But you did get a lot of views.
you got a lot of views.
Take
And
those.
the whole internet
Yeah.
was on your side for a day.
Yeah.
I wanted to.
I mean, I don't blame them. Like, we wouldn't do that because we have a relationship with Wizards. But you get this stuff, and it's a legitimate accident, and you haven't signed anything, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
It falls into like if you're walking along the street and you see a box, and you're just an average Joe that has a YouTube channel.
And you
I'm
wanna
not saying they are old school MTG. I'm just saying, and it's like this is. Let's say it is the first reel of Aquaman 2.
Yeah.
You don't owe anybody anything, right? Like you just found it on the side of the road. Now it's probably not legal for you to show it to everybody, but it, like I can understand the thought of like, what? I didn't sign nothing. I didn't ask for this. I didn't pay for it.
But if I
didn't
just put it
steal
out there,
yeah. So
Yeah. It's,
Aquaman 2, though? I don't know.
I was just trying to think of a movie that's not out yet.
He's an Aquaman.
Oh, man. I would just take that and put it right back where it came from. The dumpster.
I'd call Jason Momoa.
Sorry, Jay. Yeah, I'd be like, yo, Mr. Momoa, it's me, your Aquaman
something
haver.
that you might want to see.
Yeah.
I don't
Or
think I
not,
might-
or maybe
I don't
you
think
don't
I
want
might
to.
He's like, I've already seen it.
Momoa,
Click.
All right, next biggest controversy of the
Yeah.
year. Well,
Much
another
different.
big problem.
Yeah.
It's not the next biggest. Yeah, these are in no particular order.
I
but
totally forgot about this.
I want to talk about the Secret Lairs censorship.
I'll never forget this one.
Yep.
Because this came out at the very beginning of the year. They released a stone coil serpent in the Snake's Secret Lair.
Irony.
Yeah, there's a little
And
snake.
it originally featured a tiny naked man on a spike.
People caught it immediately.
People got it immediately and were like, "Whoa, naked
that's
guy
a
on
naked guy on a
Magic
spike." Yeah.
And they tweeted about it, and it was sort of like a big thing on Twitter. And then Wizards just like photoshopped him out.
Yeah. Really easy to, by the way.
Painted him out. Yep.
Just erased, and there's now like a big purple hole kind of in the middle of the
I know,
art where
it
he
kind of
used to
was.
be.
It's where you look in the art, too. So
Right.
I'm amazed they didn't see the little naked man
Well, the
in the
stick
first place.
that's impaling him is
Yeah.
still
Still
there,
Yeah.
but he's just not on it.
He's just
anymore.
not on
The
it.
stick is also much shorter, so it's like kind of just a random
Yeah, they just
toothpick now.
literally painted him out. I think.
Now it's all the way down.
Yeah. No,
'Cause it would
the
look
whole
weird.
thing got painted
Yeah.
out. Yeah, it's this was interesting because it was really funny, and we were all like, hee hee, like You missed. Well, you probably
it
didn't
is.
want that.
Yeah.
And
That's a little thing.
It was also a little bit, how'd you miss it? Because it's right in the middle of
it's
the front.
right in the middle.
It's where your eye goes instantly when you look at the card.
Yeah.
It's like, and
I don't
it's
know
not
the story.
subtle.
Did it get snuck in like last minute by the
I don't
artist?
know.
Or
Yeah,
there's
we don't
just
know.
somebody.
You know, it's like V25 X2 underscore
Yep.
newest revised version.
Yeah, they
Sorry, new
approved
art.
the previous version, and they were like,
Yeah.
send in 100 cards, and they
Yeah.
got to approve them all. And this is like this. We already approved this. So,
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
hey,
It's
oh,
fine.
there's
Yeah,
a new,
send
I
it
just
out.
changed the color a little bit.
Yeah.
It's got a little naked man last stick.
took his underpants off. And
Yeah, maybe he had underpants on
maybe,
originally.
Yeah, maybe he was covered.
I mean, it is pretty gruesome seeing a dude with a stick through his body.
It was wild, and it was definitely one of those things where it's like you guys might be releasing a little too much product.
You're not
if you
catching-
didn't
yeah.
catch this focal point of the Stone Coil Serpent.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, if you only have 400 cards come out in a year,
Yeah.
you can give them all like an hour of scrutiny. But
Yeah,
if you've
exactly.
got 2,000, then they're all down to like 12 minutes
Sometimes
now.
it's
So,
a
yeah.
little naked man on a stick.
Yep, just a little naked man with a little naked thing on the stick.
All right, so another big controversy of the year. It was when Troll and Toad announced that they were out of the Magic business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Troll and Toad, if you don't know, was one of the bigger online Magic retailers. And around the time we started our podcast, I would say they were like top 4, probably.
They fell quite a bit, I think, since then.
Yeah, they've dipped, and they weren't. But there was once upon a time they were in the upper echelon with the Card Kingdoms and the SCGs
Channel Fireballs,
and Channel Fireballs and cool stuff. I would say those were sort of the 5. And Troll and Toad was probably like 4th or maybe even 3rd on that list. And like we said, they've declined in recent years, and I think I wouldn't have put them in the top 5 in the last few years. But they were still, the remnants of them were still, sort of big enough that it was a little bit surprising to hear that they were just like fully out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just announced that they are not selling individual Magic products anymore. And it was sort of in the wake of the Commander Masters fiasco where a lot of distributors got stuck with a bunch of product they couldn't sell.
Yeah.
But it was also just...
Well, I think also people don't really attribute this enough, but like their business was not doing great for Magic. So why keep that part of the business up?
Yeah.
I think it landed at the same time as all this other stuff. So people, again, the internet loves to conflate things. They're like, Troll and Toad leaves Magic. Magic is dying. Vendors are dying. Everything is bad. Look, Troll and Toad has left the scene. It'd be one thing if like Card Kingdom, SCG, any of the real like TCG player left Magic entirely. But I think Troll and Toad, and if you look at their customer service history, they don't have a great record of like shipping singles in ways that don't damage the cards. I've ordered some stuff from Troll and Toad in the past, and it was not great. So that was the thing that I think is the only sort of byline to this. But the other thing that is, I think, the real talking point is that not just Troll and Toad is thinking about leaving Magic. I think a lot of people are thinking about how do we reduce our exposure to Magic as a business because it's not the thing it used to be.
There's been a lot of pressure put on vendors lately, and I think that has something to do with all of the versions of cards that we just talked about.
Yeah.
That has a lot to do with all of the different products that come out with every single set. There's re-releases and there's 3 different boxes of every single kind. And you have to order all of those individually and you have to order the right amount. And if you don't, you're stuck with it and you can't resell it. And you're fighting Amazon the whole way, especially with the sealed product.
Yes.
And it's tricky being a vendor right now on top of the huge amount of reprints. So prices seem like they're fluctuating wildly all the time. And things are sort of busting post-pandemic where there was a huge inflation of like reserve list cards. And now we're seeing a lot of those prices come down, not all the way down, but down.
Market correction.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think what you said about it being harder to be a vendor, also just the different versions of cards and having to sort all of those cards.
Yeah.
And then just think of, you have to
train people to do that too.
And now instead of like, there's 200 cards that come out in a set and you just list all the 200 cards. Well, now every one of those cards has 3 to 4 different versions.
Yeah.
You have to have your people trained to know how to recognize the difference between those versions. We've heard all kinds of problems with like,
Edge
this
foil
version looks a
twist,
lot like this version, and how do you know what you're getting? And then people
Planeswalker
complain that they
stamp
got
in
the
the
wrong
folder.
thing, and now all of a sudden
Yeah.
you've got returns to deal with and a high level of complaints and all kinds of stuff like that. Like you said, the reprints, and this dovetails with the conversation we were having earlier about price of cards and market fluctuation. And I think in theory we say things like, oh, it'd be great if all the cards were $1 or all the cards were very, very cheap. But there's a downside to that, and the downside is that it no longer becomes worth it for a side business to crack open packs, sort them into different things so that they can sell you the singles because the markups that they are able to charge don't warrant the amount of labor that is.
Yeah.
And so if there aren't cards that are worth enough money to make that worth it, they sort of stop doing it. And this last weekend, this is not on our outline, but just over the weekend, there was a big tournament in Atlanta, a regional tournament in Atlanta, and one of the things that Twitter was all abuzz with was the fact that a lot of the vendors at the tournament weren't carrying the needed cards for a lot of the meta decks that were being played. And so people showed up trying to get the cards they needed for their deck, but the vendors didn't have them. And they were getting mad at the vendors for not having the things. And the vendors turned around and said, well, all the cards for a lot of these decks are 43 cents a dollar. They're not very expensive. And the way that this works is I have to pay $6,000 to have a 10 by 10 square at this
Can only
event.
bring so many cards.
Every card I bring is actually not, it has to be worth it because I have a 50-pound bag I can bring on the airplane without a markup for a second bag. And that's like less than 2 5K BCW boxes. And that limits the total amount of cards that I can bring. And I have to make up for the $6,000 for my booth. I have to make up for the plane tickets for me and my employees, the hotel rooms for me and my employees.
Food,
I'm already at a loss, right? I'm 10,000, maybe 12,000 in before I sell one single card. And so I have to make enough profit on the cards that I do sell to make $12,000 to break even, and then some amount of money so we actually make something.
Yeah.
And that means that it is not very worth it for me to bring a bunch of 43-cent cards because how much, like even if I sell 100 of those, if I only make 10 cents on each one, then I made $10?
Yeah.
Like, how does that work? So they're incentivized under this structure to only bring dual lands and high value
Reserve
stuff
list,
that's $50 or more where they can make some money off of it. And that leaves a lot of the sort of needed stuff in the cold. And I think that argument was really interesting to me, not because of that tournament and not to blame players or vendors or even come down on a side of who's right or wrong, because I think neither is. This is just economics and the way the incentives are set up. But I think it is indicative of like an overall sort of issue we're seeing because this acceleration in the amount of product and the way they're doing reprints is kind of different in Secret Lairs and all this stuff. It's not good or bad. It's just creating a lot of economic upheaval to the way the system used to function. So that we're going to be in this transition period, I think, for a little while of sort of figuring out, navigating how does card acquisition work in this new paradigm.
It's hard for buyers and for sellers, right? It's not making it easier for any person to get what they want.
But there's some good things because you can maybe get cards for cheaper.
Yeah.
They've come down. It's not all bad.
Maybe you can accidentally buy a card that was more expensive.
Yeah, exactly. And naturally through an upheaval process and the economics changing, there are going to be businesses and people that kind of fall away. They don't make it. They don't survive it. They're not able to evolve in time. And I've seen experienced vendors or people from SCG and things like that on Twitter saying things like, "Oh, it's rough. There's downside. It's a little bit different, but we've seen this before. Magic has been around for 30 years. There's been ebbs and flows. There's been ups and downs to the economy, but Magic's also changed the way it's printed things and the way the reprints has worked. And it's not the end of the world. It's not. It's just a transition period where we have to learn to evolve, but it'll swing back and there will be ways to figure out for it. So I wouldn't be all doom and gloom, but it is a thing I think that's worth paying attention to a little bit.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Another big thing that was announced in 2023 was the MTG Ambassador Program.
Yeah, so you may have seen your favorite content creator posting every single time a set comes out a giant swag pile of every single product that you could receive from that set. That is because they are an MTG Ambassador and they're required through the program to post about it.
Yeah, I wanted to... This is a quote from the Wizards website about the program. It says, the MTG Ambassador Program provides content creators with additional tools to create their Magic the Gathering content. Ambassadors received set information and a variety of cards from each set before debut day in order to prepare thoughtful, informative content for their audience. They're beacons of kindness, creativity, and inclusivity. In addition to receiving exclusive MTG Ambassador swag, creators are given product from every set, MTG Arena benefits, and MagicCon badges. Moreover, these creators will create impactful content with insights directly from Wizards of the Coast.
So, Rachel, let me ask you a question. Why do we have this listed under biggest controversies?
That is an interesting question. Wizards launched this program that I think reading that statement, everyone's like, that sounds great.
Cool. Yeah.
That is the
direct
perfect
brand ambassadors for our content creators.
Yeah.
Love it.
Giving them the tools that they need to make better content in the time when their audience cares about it. That's awesome. I think it's a new program, so there's a lot of bumps in the beginning, and it did become largely about these huge swag bags. And it felt like the only thing that we were hearing about the Ambassador Program was just a creator got a ton of stuff, and they were like, look at all my stuff.
And because then, they had to post so much about it, you heard a lot about it as well.
And of course, that creates feelings of jealousy and comparing, your channel
envy.
numbers to their channel numbers, and why don't I have that? And why
we
do they
selected?
do that? Why does this content and I think that jealousy is really where controversy happened, but it also came from the program was new and it wasn't necessarily doing what Wizards wanted it to, or even what the creators wanted it to.
Yeah, and even multiple creators dropped out publicly of the program as well, which meant that they were not jiving with the requirements or with, because I believe, and none of us here are ambassadors, so we don't know the exact requirements, but I believe the posting requirements were felt a bit excessive to a lot of the creators that have dropped out.
It feels like there's very rigorous asks in terms of what they post and the approval process of how they post. I know they have to have a certain number of posts that get approved. Mm-hmm. And from my understanding, there is no financial compensation for any of this work. Of course, there is swag and there is boxes and there's, things that cost money are given to them, but they're not paid for any of this labor. So that was also part of this.
Yeah. I will say that as someone that's worked as a brand influencer and a content creator for a long time and has done tons of different promotions with tons of different companies and have seen many companies also fail at this exact thing, that this is one of the trickiest and hardest things to do and figure out and nail execution-wise. Because you're not just dealing with here, we're sending them to LGSs. They are established companies that know, or established stores that they have their own player base, they have their own thing going. No, we're sending these out to 15 different creators, all with different experience levels, all with different guidelines about how they work, all with different work ethics, and all with different everything. And we're all expecting a uniform thing to come out of it. So in order to really make that work, you have to have a lot of work put into the managing of the relationships and guiding of the people you're working with. Because even when companies like Maker and Fullscreen back in the day, these were MCNs, multi-channel networks, a big reason they failed is because they would sign on 15, 50, 100 different YouTube channels and only have 5 managers to work with all of them. And a lot of times it'd be like, why aren't we getting this video back? This brand wants this video from this person, but they're not following the guidelines. They're not doing it on time. It's well, you need to really babysit a lot of these times, these channels, to make sure that the whole thing goes as planned and the content is right and it matches what you're looking for. And I think in this case, there's a lot of different things happening. One, I think they bit off more than they could chew. They promised more than they could chew.
Huge amount of creators.
Yeah, started with a huge amount of creators, and there was not enough one-on-one hey, let's actually work together to really figure out what's the best product market fit for your content, for your audience, for what we're doing here. How can we deliver it in a way that doesn't create negative feelings of envy, resentment, and all these other bad things? And how do we actually create the excitement that we want? So I think there's a lot of different things that went wrong with this. And you can just compare also the MTG Ambassador Program, which is hard to do with a lot of people, compared to something that Wizard does do with a lot of people that works really well, which is the early access to sets on MTG Arena. They can do that for people across the globe. You go into that Discord channel when they set it up, there's people from Brazil, Japan, all across the world that are all participating in this together. And it's easy to grant them all access because then they just log on to MTG Arena and they do their content as normal. Now you're giving a lot of people that may have never taken a selfie with a product pile before, and you're asking them to do it in a way that is flawless and doesn't create negative emotions, you're gonna run into problems unless you can really handhold the situation from the get-go. And I think if they wanted to do this right, they would have a larger staff behind it, people that are really trained in doing exactly this, and they would work with a much smaller group of people and do it in a way that doesn't create this, why am I not involved? Because you've already seen people being like, I wasn't selected for a creator badge. I'm angry about it. I'm going to post about it. You already know that you have this kind of envy when it comes to who gets chosen to do things or get things for free. So you really have to be careful in how you actually work with these creators because you're walking into a minefield when it comes to Twitter and the internet. So there's a lot of things that they could have done better. And I saw it from the beginning. I was like, oh, this is going to go. The first time I saw someone posting a picture with a mountain of product like we have behind us in them, I was like, this is going to go very poorly for them because even me, as someone that can get whatever product they want because I have the financial means to afford it at this point in my life, I'm like, wow, that's a lot of stuff. Why didn't I not I've done a lot for Magic, right? I thought that. And I was like, wait, that's silly. But then I was like, uh-oh, the rest of the internet is not going to have a similar reaction, I don't think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that there was any way to try and do this without, causing the creation of some kind of like what feels like some sort of club,
Yeah.
you know, that requires who knows what to enter, but that some people are on the outside of and are not happy about being on the outside of and are envious or jealous or spiteful or just sad, disappointed, you know, think they belong, are about the same size of, you know, because I think their heart is in the right place kind of thing, I think.
Right. Yeah, totally.
Which is like, you know, they picked they didn't just pick giant creators. It wasn't all about just follower size. They went for diversity. They were, you know, trying to handpick, you know, certain people in certain areas that I think were good. I think the advanced product is very useful for a lot of the content creators. We've seen a lot of sort of early access content that has been very successful for a lot of people in the community, which I think is good. It allows them to be able to sort of be timed up with when a set's coming out, because in order to be timed up with a set release, you actually have to get the product well in advance of the set. We well know this, right? Because this is how Game Nights works. You know, you need maybe a week, couple of weeks before the product or the set's coming out to prep your content. Come up with idea, shoot idea, edit, get it ready, upload so that it's even out in time for people to be like, now set's coming out now, video's up now. That's a hard thing to time up. So their ability to get product into people's hands early really gave the opportunity for a lot of creators to sort of get their timeline lined up with what it would be sort of the most exciting time to talk about sets. So I think that's a positive in general, but there's no way to sort of overlook the negative that's going to happen. And I don't really know that there's a way. Do you think there's a way for them to pull that off where that doesn't happen in some way?
I think just choosing way less creators, maybe even one person to start this off with instead of just going wide swath. Because I think and that could have its own problems too, right? But that would be my fix, is more staffing, less people.
Yeah. I mean, to play devil's advocate, they sort of have one. It's us.
Yeah.
Like we and Lord.
But we had to craft it ourselves, right? Like,
I'm just saying, like they've tested a little with us and Loading Ready to Run with early advanced product, working very closely. And so I think it's reasonable to open it up to a larger amount. Maybe they went too many, but I think in the 10 or 15, 20 range was a reasonable next step from where they are. But you just have to go in eyes wide open, knowing like, hey, some people, quite a few of our, you know, people that support us and make content about us are going to be pissed that they aren't in the club here.
Yeah.
And we're going to hear about it and they're going to complain about it. And
there's also it's like Road to the Pro Tour. How do I get to the Pro Tour? Here's all the tournaments you go to get there. There's no Road to the Ambassador Program, right?
And maybe you can't do that though, because of the way you want to do it from a sort of why you want to
more fair. And
because if you just do anybody who's over 100,000 subscribers on YouTube gets in, or you know, there's gonna be complaints about that. And also, I don't think that accomplishes what you want it to accomplish, which is like, you know, if you want to lift up voices that aren't being heard in little areas and pockets, you know, and Europe and South America and Asia, you can't have like one rubric that says like, hey, we check off these boxes on your resume and you get in, because you won't get those people. So I think they're in a tough situation to try and pull off the program. I'm not saying they did it perfectly, but I'm just saying
it's like they rose those people up so that other people could snipe it.
That is a tough part. And maybe they didn't prepare these people enough. And I think also it's a tough position for all the ambassadors to be in with, you know, not as much experience. Like, I wish I could have given a boot camp to all of them about how you deal with brand offers and how you read contracts and how you negotiate and what sort of things are arduous and tough that you don't think will be, that you should negotiate out of your contract if you can. I think
guaranteed a lot of people just said yes to everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the brand, of course, is going to put forward the most favorable terms for them. And you don't have a lawyer. They got a whole legal team, right? Like we have legal here at Command Zone only recently, where we have been, got enough revenue, and it's expensive, right? Like you take something where they're going to pay you X amount, and you put X minus my legal fees, and all of a sudden it's a significant difference. So you have to get to a certain amount before you can even afford the lawyer to look over the thing to give you real legal counsel. Yeah, but at least these people had no way to know what they're getting themselves into, which is a little bit tough. And I think, Wizards knowing that probably could have been a little bit better on that side of it. Just being like, listen, let's make these terms a little bit better for the creators, just knowing that they don't have the resources to really push in the areas we would expect from big companies that we're working with. Yeah. So, but I think overall there are positives from the Ambassador Program, right? Like getting a bunch of people badges to go to MagicCons.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I think the dust has settled a little bit on the envy and stuff. And so it ultimately, I hope, will be a good thing. And it feels like it's kind of turning in that direction. But certainly at the start
bumpy
it was rough. And, and it was always going to be bumpy. Could have been a little less bumpy, maybe.
Yeah. Another thing about this, and this is just my hypothesis, but typically these types of ideas at a company don't start from the CEO level. It's not like the top person is like, we should do an ambassador program.
Right.
Because there's no single dollar attached to sending free stuff to people for marketing.
Yeah, it's
right?
pitched.
It's pitched from the bottom up, which means it usually does come from a very much like, we are doing this because we want the best for the community. We're doing it from the bottom up. But as a result, also it means that they're usually constrained on resources as a result of coming from the pitch process. Because they'll pitch for a lot, and the whole point of it is that they're going to get less and less and less until they get a small slice of the pie that they had asked for originally. But it's enough to start the thing. So that could be another thing that sort of hamstrung a program like this from the get-go. So we can just hope that it is showing enough success that they're given more resources in the future and then more ways to support it in ways that really help enhance what they're trying to go for their vision.
In any case, to all the MTG ambassadors, our heart goes out to you. It's hard doing content creation. We hope you're getting everything that you need to make it even better, and we'll see you at MagicCon.
Yeah, if any of you need any advice, feel free to hit us up. God knows we've been called Watsy shills many times.
Now you can
if you
join
want
us.
somebody to commiserate with, we're right there. Seriously, heart goes out to all the ambassadors. They're just trying to make cool content.
They're doing the
just
best.
Leave them alone. Come on.
They just like Magic. Relax.
We're happy for the opportunity for you.
Wizard said, you want some stuff? And they said, yes.
Yes.
Who wouldn't?
Yeah.
Leave them alone.
Okay.
Okay. This
one more
big
controversy, and it is pretty recent.
This is a big one. It came in the last couple weeks.
Really last week, yeah.
Yeah.
Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro announced that they are laying off 1,100 workers over the course of the next 6 months, nearly 20% of their total workforce. And this is following 800 layoffs that happened at the beginning of last year.
Yeah. So that's basically 30% of their company.
A huge amount of people are getting laid off. And despite strong performance from D&D and, of course, Magic, there have been a number of cuts from Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah. D&D movie did great. Baldur's Gate 3 did great.
Game of the year. Magic. We heard a Q3, I think, financial report where Wizards was up something like 14 to 18% revenue-wise. So one of the only... I think
it's the only thing.
I think it's the only profitable arm of Hasbro at the moment.
Yeah.
But the way that layoffs at big companies work, they generally... still trim everywhere.
Yep.
So, I was told that about 10% of the cuts were going to come from Wizards. Remember, Wizards is not only Magic, they're also D&D. So people are getting let go from both of those teams.
And they're technically now 1/3 major pillar of Hasbro. They originally were acquired just as a side company. They grew so much that they became one of the pillars of the company. And then Chris Cox from WotC went on to become the CEO of Hasbro as well. That's just how well Magic was doing for them.
Yeah.
And of course, Chris Cox, really tightened his belt this year and took an $8 million bonus.
After the announcing.
After the announcing.
Yeah.
That
great
part's
time.
really hard to stomach.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah. How do you, that's not good sequencing, as they would say in the biz. That's like playing cards in your main phase and then going to attack.
Yeah.
What's going on there?
The layoffs do often come at the end of the year because for tax purposes when they're cutting, revenue and things like that. So it sucks to let people go around the holidays, of course, but at least that makes some kind of business sense, I guess. Listen, Wizards is up. You don't want people losing their jobs. I think there's no good thing about it, right?
Yeah.
Especially when it's like, this was a $300 million company, which sounds like a lot back in 2014, but it's like 1.3 billion now. Like they've 5x their company in 6 or 7 years, and having to lay people off under those circumstances sucks. But man, the fact that happens and then the CEO of the company
gets a huge bonus,
$8 million. How many people of the people that were laid off would be covered for a year of salary from the $8 million? Or even if you just say, I'm only going to give myself $4 million. I think a classy thing to do would be like, I'm cutting my own salary by 20% in solidarity with the fact that this is what the company needs to do. So
literally what Satoru Iwata did for Nintendo. Now, one thing to note is that WotC is not the only company this year that is in the gaming space to have made layoffs. Pretty much every single major gaming company across the board has had minimum 10% layoffs. So this is something that's been happening to a lot of our favorite companies. And if you just look on Twitter, it's like every couple of weeks, you're just going to get that deluge of like, today was my last day at X company because of this. And it's like, man, this is rough and tumble for a lot of people this year. So
I think it's accompanying like an economic downturn and the anticipation of the economy being a little bit more stormy on the horizon. And I think, some of that makes sense. But the bonus is the thing that gets me, right?
That
just doesn't seem
an
right.
ugly cherry on top for sure.
And I know Chris is the one that brought Wizards from 300 million to 1.3 billion, and definitely deserves a lot of rewards for that. But hopefully you got him along the way. And at this, just the optics of this timing is just pretty bad.
Yeah.
So our hearts go out to everybody at Wizards as well, not just the ambassadors.
A lot of people we know at Wizards as well lost their jobs, and it's a
Paul
bummer.
Cheon was the shockingest one to me because Paul is a big part of the Pro Tour and that group, and he's so classy, and he is just a guy that elevates all the events, I feel, just by his presence there. And so there's a lot of people there, and I don't want to single out, I don't want anybody to feel bad we didn't name him, so I won't name anymore. I shouldn't have named Paul, but there were some names on that list where you're just like, that seems nuts. I don't get it.
I mean, there was right when Baldur's Gate 3 was winning Game of the Year, they announced that basically the entire team at Wizards that was responsible for it got laid off.
It's crazy.
And
it's
that was an enormous game. That was a huge moment for D&D.
It's like when Life of Pi won the Academy Awards for all the visual effects, but Digital Domain and everybody was just going down in flames. All the VFX companies were. Yeah, it's just it doesn't make sense, and it makes less sense when the people at the very, very top are so healthy. They're so lining, the pockets are so lined.
They're playing a life gain deck and they have 80 life and everyone's at 10, and they're you know what? I have no life to spare. In fact, I'm going to get another 50 and then just kill you guys. It's oh my gosh.
It's definitely a big problem we have, I think,
gracious.
which is just that gap between C-suite level people and everyday workers that are really
so frustrating.
The sad thing is it's not just WotC that you see this happen.
Yeah, they didn't invent it.
This happens all the time, everywhere, and we unfortunately just endure.
Just endure. Yeah. So that sucks.
Yep.
I don't know if it's a controversy, but it sucks.
It sucks.
It's controversial.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to I was going to say lighter topic.
A lighter topic. The thing about this section, so this is the biggest whiffs of 2023. The thing about this section is they're all gaming related.
Yeah,
so it's all, at the end of the day,
it's about the game of Magic,
it's
not
about,
the business or anything like that.
Side,
cards, it'll be fine.
So what were the biggest whiffs of the year for Magic?
This first one's pretty easy.
Yeah, we talked about this a lot, so we're not going to go deep into it, but it's Commander Masters. What did you guys do?
Swing and a miss.
Yikes.
Swing and a miss, yeah.
Strike one.
Tried to hit it, deflecting SWAT.
Yeah.
They're success, fierce guardianship.
Oh, ha! The next one we mentioned very briefly, but I did want to bring it up here, is the Phyrexian language cards in Olby 1 were executed really, really poorly this year.
Yeah, it was great when it was just that first Elish Norn.
Just the Praetor. You're like,
just the one.
Cool.
Just the one. Now it's I open it, I'm can't use this. Can't sell it.
They did it on a bunch.
Don't know what it does.
Don't know what it does.
They did it on Jace, Nissa, Nahiri, Luca, Elish Norn, and Phyrexian Arena. And they were in...
At least Phyrexian Arena, they
were in draft booster packs.
Yeah,
I was at a pre-release where somebody opened one, and she was like, why is mine in, Japanese or something?
Get out your phone.
That's not.
Yeah.
Is it a real card?
Save it for the Secret Lair.
Yeah, that was a big whiff for me.
The next big whiff of the year is March of the Machines storyline ending.
It was supposed to be this big thing.
They wanted it to be endgame. They wanted it to be all the planes team up and defeat the Phyrexians, and I think the problem was they inverted it. None of the planes came together. They all just fought
on their own
isolated
planes.
in their own spot. So you didn't get Captain America back to back with Black Panther.
Right.
You got Captain America fighting, and then on another planet, Black Panther fighting, and then on another planet, Thor fighting by themselves, kind of. I mean, they were with the other people, but the other people that they're always with.
Yeah,
I
think that's actually a really fair critique. It also... They stepped on it because Lord of the Rings was coming.
Yeah.
They just took this, their big storyline, and then they were like, actually, there's this super famous, beloved storyline. I know we're not done telling you this, but this.
Yeah.
And it's just really hard to compete with Tolkien,
Yeah, it really is.
And then
that's a good point.
And on top of a bad storyline ending, they had an aftermath to the bad storyline. That was also a bad product to really help out.
The next...
it was cool characters, though. I liked... There were some team-ups there.
Yeah?
Took them a while.
Just the little packs. I just can't... You can't do it.
The packs was the biggest whiff for me. I think the design for Aftermath was actually very cool. I wish those cards were, on shelves.
You know what they should have done? Sold March of the Machine and had the Aftermath packs be the box toppers.
Yeah,
little
that's
5-packs.
cool.
There you go.
Yeah, I love that idea.
Chris, you got $8 million? Throw one of them my way.
We
Just
got-
$1 million, please.
You get ideas like that.
Yeah,
One,
kiddo.
Big
That was $1 million idea.
That's $1 million idea that sold one less set somehow.
Yeah, he's going, so let me get this straight. We design all the cards and then we just give that away for free? I think I lost money there.
Yeah. Yeah.
$1 million bucks.
All right, what's the
I-
next big whiff,
There
Rachel?
was one problem with Lord of the Rings, and it was the Lord of the Rings Secret Lair.
Oh my gosh. Talk about the worst looking Secret Lair. I felt, because I buy Secret Lairs and I was like, I gotta
man.
get it because it's Lord of the Rings, but I don't enjoy purchasing this.
This was the
You got it?
okay.
Yeah, because I
It
like.
was so bad value.
was so
all the cards were like
bad.
less than $1.
I know,
you had to
but-
pay so much for like $5 of value.
Yeah, I wanted like the total value of the cards that were in this Lord of the Rings Secret Lair was 85 cents.
They just got me because it's Lord of the Rings, man.
It was Slip on the
See,
Ring,
Chris, I'm your slender
Gandalf,
friend.
Friend of the Shire, Mirror of Galadriel, Shire Terrace. The value was so low that everybody was like, you know what? That secret card is going to be huge.
It's gonna be the One Ring.
It's going to be the One Ring. It's going to be the Nazgul. It's going to be incredible.
What was it?
It was
A
Grima
misprinted-
Wartongue.
And guess what? It was the wrong power
Yeah, they-
listed on Grima. It was a 2-4
Misprinted
when it's
Grima
really a
Wartongue.
1-4. It was-
That's what makes it more valuable.
maybe that's why. They thought, misprinted and it'll be worth more.
See,
Also,
there you go.
look at the art. Grima's not even. He blends into the background. You can't even see.
He's not
him.
even the center
It
central
looks like
character.
it's the king. It looks like it's Theoden.
That was the worst Secret Lair they've ever released, and it was for their best set of all time.
Yeah, whoopsies. And then another big whiff, I think, was Doctor Who. It just didn't have any interest, I feel like, from the community. And it had so much love behind it. Big shout out to Gavin. It was his big project for this year. And I just feel like, I don't know, I've watched a lot of Doctor Who. I've seen the show a bunch. And even I'm like, I don't know. I don't see where it could be the best thing. And it's pretty niche. And the people that do like it don't. So I think that really fell flat in a lot of different ways, unfortunately.
It was an interesting thing, Doctor Who, because we mentioned earlier, we saw the lowest interest on videos with that set than we ever have for anything we've ever made.
And you had such a good Dalek impression, too.
Exterminate. And we saw that across everybody, all content creators. It just seemed like if you made a video about Doctor Who stuff, it was like 60%.
Yeah,
the
like
numbers
significantly
like a
low.
lot, maybe
Yeah.
half as much numbers as you would expect from any other set that you've ever done if you just did the average. And that signaled to me like, oh, there's not much interest for this set, at least among the Magic community, at least among the people that normally watch videos, right?
Yeah.
But we talked to some vendors about how sales were of Doctor Who products, because I think it would be easy to just look at our side of our perspective and say, that was a whiff, that was a failure. But there's another side of the equation here that's hard to account for, which is like, okay,
Did it sell well?
If current Magic players weren't as into it, was that made up for by people who don't currently play Magic, wouldn't watch Magic Online videos, who are Doctor Who fans and who bought it? Did they buy enough to kind of balance the scales on that? And what we heard from the vendors was it sold pretty good. It wasn't like the biggest set. They compared it to 40K as far as like a similar set. And what we heard was basically 40K was a huge home run. It sold a lot. Whereas Doctor Who wasn't that, but sold slightly above what they'd projected. It wasn't like Commander Masters where they bought a bunch, couldn't sell it all, ended up holding the bag. They sold slightly more than they had anticipated of Doctor Who, and they had anticipated like half as much of 40K is basically what I heard. So in that respect, maybe not as big of a whiff. It just maybe seemed like that from our perspective.
Do you think it's because they were just pre-con specifically as well? Because people love pre-cons.
I heard the collector's boosters did a little bit worse than the pre-cons.
Yeah.
So like the pre-cons actually sold better than the collector's boosters.
Yeah, because there are people that don't care about Magic and follow it at all and will just always get pre-cons.
Yeah.
So
Well,
there's
and
that
the
world.
pre-cons told you, like, blast from the past. If you're a fan of Doctor Who, that has it sort of tells you what it is, whereas collector's booster is like more amorphous. You're not sure what you're gonna get.
Yeah, like I think if you're a Doctor Who fan and you're going to buy something, you want the one that definitely has David Tennant on it.
Yeah.
Totally.
That's the one you want because that's the guy.
That probably sold the highest of all of them as well.
It definitely did from anecdotal experience. I think the biggest disappointment for me with Doctor Who was that it wasn't super accessible. It wasn't a great entry point for Magic. For Doctor Who fans. Like, while they could pick up the product and look at the pictures and be like, I did it, cool. Like a new medium for Doctor Who. It wasn't... the play experience wasn't very good just from a Magic perspective.
It was complicated.
It was
very
really
complicated,
complicated, very, very grindy. The games were very long in our experience when we were just testing the precons beforehand. And And they were complicated. It wasn't a good way for a new player who likes Doctor Who to get into Magic.
It's interesting, maybe because it's like a fictional TV show versus Warhammer, which is a fictional thing, but it's like built on killing and war and all that stuff, that when you're going top-down design, it's easier to make more playable cards that do things from that perspective, instead of always being like, well, this person has a baseball bat, or this person can only punch one time, you know, and it's like very cool thematically, but it doesn't lead to like better gameplay necessarily because you're in a different confine of a design box.
I don't know. It's interesting.
All right, let's move on now to the more positive, which are the biggest successes for Magic in 2023.
Yeah, let's beat this dead horse one more time. Lord of the Rings was
LOTR.
an enormous success for the year. You guys did it. Congratulations. On top of that, a little bit more niche, the One of One ring was an unbelievable success.
I bought collector boosters. I was like, I want to open it. People would have screamed if I opened it.
Oh my God,
like,
that would have been so bad.
Rigged. Yeah. The One of One ring is what a coup. Like, yeah, just worked on every level. I think it was the outcome of it, which they got super lucky.
They got so lucky. What a gamble.
Yeah.
If that had been opened by like the second cousin of a WotC employee, they would
or just somebody in like the SCG warehouse, right? Like somebody at Card Kingdom, one of their people that's just paid to open like
it's
400
just
boxes.
Like Willy Wonka.
Yeah. It's the fact that it was just some guy, Brooke Trafton, who just bought a box and then sold it to Post Malone. Like, it's the Cinderella story that you would have dreamed up, written up if you could have.
Yeah. Someone was like, when we make this is the best thing that could happen.
Yeah.
And it happened.
Okay, question for you both.
Yeah.
How soon until they try and duplicate this, do something like this again?
Marvel,
yeah.
What are they going to do? The Mjolnir?
Maybe they do 5.
They do 5 and do
the Infinity Gauntlet?
Infinity Stones, yeah. Or the Gauntlet.
The Gauntlet of 5 stones?
I feel like they do
or
5
just
stones.
the Gauntlet?
Or just each stone has one of one. And
it's
then
different if there's more than one of one, right?
Yeah, I don't know. What,
Exodia.
Could you do 5 one of ones? Because then it's like, well, Posty wants to buy all 5.
However soon they, however soon they do it, it'll be too soon.
It'll be too soon.
They're going to take the wrong lesson.
I mean, the One Ring is literally
works.
called the One Ring, so it just has such a perfect thing.
This works. You can't do it again for 20 years.
I'm sure there is something in Marvel that will fit thematically, but it won't feel as good.
All right, what's the next biggest success?
For me, it was Dominaria Remastered.
Oh, nice.
This set was a great price point. It had really, really solid reprints. The card foiling was gorgeous. I thought the packs were really fun to open. Like I'm not super into Dominaria, but there's like familiar cards and familiar faces, and we got like new old borders on Commander
New old borders.
Old bordered cards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
was where I was going. It just sounded weird. And I just thought this was some of the most fun packs to open for me during the year.
Very cool.
Next up, MagicCons. It was big for us, but also big for the community because originally in Philadelphia, the Black Lotus experience was just okay. And then the Command Zone was paid, and then it changed, and it changed for the rest of the year. And then the Command Zone went from paid to free. The cons got better and better organized. You could tell that they're finding their flow, figuring out what made them work. And each con felt like it was an improvement on the last. And we also got to have 4 episodes of Game Nights Live.
Yeah. Super fun, and I like what you said there. I think they really showed a concentrated effort to iterate and listen to feedback and improve. And each successive MagicCon, you could tell specifically, like, they took the feedback. Oh, we need we need more play area for the players. We need more free play area. There's no reason that you should pay for a badge to get into the event and then also pay again to get into the Command Zone area. And this was stuff that they changed, and I really like that. And I think by the end of the year, we had the best Magic event that ever happened, and we had successive best ones. Like, this one was the best one, then the next one, that was even better.
That was better.
Yeah, so I'm really excited for this year.
And they pulled one off in Europe as well, too.
Yep.
So that's a big sign for what's coming up, too.
Yeah.
I would also say that this represents a big shift for them. This isn't a Magic event they've ever run before, right? So this is a Magic event focused on a casual player base. It's like, how do casual Magic players want to interact in person? And that is a huge question to answer, and I do think they figured it out. MagicCons are a ton of fun. There's a ton of stuff going on. I feel like I don't play as much as I think I'm going to because there's so many people to see, and I want to stand in line for artists, and I want to watch the show, and I want to see all the cosplayers. So they're a ton of fun, and if you can make one, you should. And at those events, they have Pro Tours.
Yeah, the return of the Pro Tour. I really was happy that the Pro Tour came back in a form that's more simplified, makes more sense, more like the old days. Got to root for Reed Duke on Sunday a couple of times. I love that. Yeah, it was something to follow. I mean, we're casual people. We're not trying to be pros, but it's still great when the Pro Tour is happening and you can just kind of check in on it. And it's cool when they just crown somebody the world champion or the champion, the Pro Tour champion. It's just nice to know that that is a thing that's going on. It's nice to hear the buzz, hear a little bit of talk about the decks, even though I'm not going to play it. I just like that it exists.
Yeah. It was really cool. There was like a big championship match going on, and there was a monitor in the middle of the casual play area, and a bunch of people are standing around it watching them play Standard, and it's just a ton of fun seeing the Magic worlds collide in a physical space. It was really cool.
Totally.
Yeah, I think we're finding a nice balance where it used to be all Pro Tour. That was what Magic was and what they advertised. And you went to an event and it was tournaments.
Yeah.
And there was literally no place to sit if you weren't playing the tournaments. And then they kind of swung all the way over. They created this MPL thing, which was weird, but and then for a little while they didn't even have that. And we're just like, there's not competitive Magic and it's all Commander and there's Command Fest, but there's no structure to anything and just here's just tables and we don't know what else. And now they've kind of like learned like, okay, we need a mix and maybe it's 20% competitive Magic and 60% casual and another 20% of like activities and experiences and whatever. I just made up numbers, but you get it. And I think they're kind of learning the chemistry of that and they've come to a good place. So it's nice.
Kind of fun.
Yep. All right, the last big success of the year.
This was a big reprint year. I think they reprinted a lot of the cards that we asked for. There were meaningful price differences. And I think if they follow this pattern and take into effect the reprint plan that they have going forward, we're going to see a good control of the Commander staple prices, which was something that's been concerning in the last couple of years. Is like, are they ever going to be able to keep up with demand? And it looks like they have adjusted and they have anticipated this, and we're going to keep prices under control, which is exciting.
That's great. All right. Our last section here. I know it's been a long one. Thanks for sticking with us.
Yeah, if you're still here.
Yeah, it's been almost as long as the whole year was.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Post your third comment of
By
the
the
episode.
time you finish watching this, it'll be 2025.
2025.
Yeah.
Well, let's look forward to 2024 first. The big announcement is that we have a new thing called play boosters. We've had set boosters, collector boosters, draft boosters. Now draft and set boosters are being combined into one all-encompassing booster called the play booster. They're basically like set boosters, but they're going to be draftable, and this is what you will now be opening in limited environments. And it, for WotC's, is going to solve a lot of problems that they stated, which is no one was buying draft boosters, or they're buying less draft boosters, and set boosters were more popular. Local game stores were having trouble buying the right number of different products because there's just too many. And so they stopped buying draft boosters because people would rather go into a store and buy a set booster. And I would, if you gave me the choice, I wasn't drafting, I would buy a set booster, right?
Yeah.
So the new play booster is here and it's going to change things up quite a bit, but also seems like not as crazy as a lot of people are making it out to be. I think it's going to be totally fine.
What are the specs for a play booster? I don't even remember.
So play boosters have 15 cards in them. The first 6 are guaranteed commons from the set that you open. The 7th one is either an additional common or it could be a card from the list. This is the curated 40 card list that I mentioned. 50 card curated list.
1/8 of the time, yeah.
Yeah, 1/8 of the time you'll get a card from the list. Otherwise, it'll be that 7th common. You will be able to play whatever card from the list in your draft pool. That's why they're more curated. Slots 8 to 10, so 3 slots will be dedicated to uncommons.
Just like now on draft boosters.
Right. There will be 1 slot dedicated to either a rare or a mythic.
Same.
1 slot dedicated to a basic land. Then the final 2 slots are where things change the most. These are wild card slots. 1 is foil, 1 is non-foil. And that basically means a card of any rarity from the main set. So this is something that's already occurring in set boosters. You could get a rare or a mythic or a common, most often a common. And 1 will be foil and 1 will be non-foil. So potentially you could open 3 rares in a pack.
4 actually, because the list card could also be a rare.
The list card that would be a wild pack.
Yeah.
That will happen very rarely, but it can happen.
Yeah. At a draft table, you'll expect to see 3 cards from the list because it's 1/8 the time, and there's going to be 8 players, and then 3
24
sets, 24 packs. Yeah.
The 15th card, which I didn't mention, is going to be the typical add or token or art card in set boosters.
Yeah. So there's functionally 13 playable cards. I mean,
the basic land and the art card.
And now any of the slots could have a different treatment in terms of how it looks, special frame, all that stuff.
Yeah, it really is just draftable set boosters.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me. The difference
Makes
between
total sense
draft
to me,
and set
too.
is just like, doesn't, like, I don't even know why those two products existed.
I think they wanted to sell more stuff, right?
Yeah.
And they thought, different players will want this, but they just created more confusion, more
But
products.
collector boosters are the go-to. I'm not drafting this.
Yeah.
Just buy that. Yeah.
Soon,
I mean, set boosters,
draftable
I
collector
think.
boosters.
Like all of my friends that buy sealed product, like a box for every set, buy set boosters. They're not
Yeah.
buying draft
Yeah,
boosters.
yeah.
And the
Totally.
big thing is like draft boosters are designed to draft. They're not designed to be fun to open. That's what set boosters were.
Yeah.
So then the main way people are buying packs is just to open them because we're drafting online or we're not drafting as much in person or, various reasons. But
I think people just draft less than they used to because they come in through Commander and it's just a different
draft on
a
Arena.
route in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that is going to change is the price. So
Yes.
set boosters do cost more than draft boosters, and play boosters will cost more than the draft boosters will as well.
But they won't cost as much as they cost on Amazon right now, so I wouldn't buy them this far out. Like most vendors and LGSs and people that are in MTG Finance are saying that the play boosters, which are booster boxes, I should say, which right now you can find on Amazon for like over $200. People are saying those are going to be significantly lower around the time of release. So our recommendation would be wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw some basic math online. We'll put the link in the show notes below. Is set booster boxes are 30 packs and are roughly $110 right
now. Yeah.
So if you take the 110 and divide it by 30, that'll give you the basic, like the average set booster pack, and then you multiply that times 36,
to
which
get
will
a
be
draft
36 packs in a regular draft booster. Those are your play boosters. So it should be like roughly $130 for a booster box of play booster.
My guess is they will use this timing as an opportunity to up the price a little, though. So I'd say 150 is probably a little bit more realistic as far as
If they're directly related to set boosters, it's 130. But we shall see. The main consequence there is that it's just that pre-releases and in-person drafts are going to be a little bit more expensive.
Yeah.
Yep. And that also means that the gems will cost more gems and stuff on MTG Arena as well, right? I'm expecting prices to increase.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how they're going to handle that on Arena. I haven't heard any talk about
I wonder if
what
it doesn't
that changes.
change their
It'd be very
Because
interesting.
they don't have draft and set right now.
No.
So
Yeah.
they would just have the normal pack that they have. I don't know.
Yeah, that would change. It'd be interesting. I'm not sure exactly how they plan to
you get
adjust
certain
for
gems
that.
and stuff when you open the same cards, and if you have more chance for rares, I could see them increasing it.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about next year and the set release schedule. It's going to go, I don't have dates, but it's just going to go in this order. Ravnica Remastered, Murders at Karlov Manor, Fallout, Outlaws of Thunder Junction. That's the Old West one.
Yep. Kind of
Modern Horizons 3.
Whoa.
Already.
Gonna break the format.
Assassin's Creed, Bloomborough, Duskmorn, House of Horror is the last one.
What are you guys looking forward to? I am looking forward to Bloomborough because it's got cute little animals. It's like Redwall. I love Redwall. I want to see a little mouse be my commander.
I'm very excited for Bloomborough as well. I think that'll be really fun. But where I've really been excited about Magic cards lately is in these
Fallout.
Is Fallout. is these like sillier sets. I really like Streets of New Capenna, so I'm excited to see what they do with Outlaws of Thunder Junction.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to Outlaws of Thunder Junction myself, just because Westerns is such a classic film format. So I'm hoping we can come up with some cool content for that one.
Yeah. I agree. I think that set's going to be really fun, and I think this is a great lineup. Although I'll have to do some research on Fallout and Assassin's Creed.
Well, you have to watch that Michael Fassbender movie.
Oh my gosh!
That's the Assassin's Creed.
Oh, it's so bad.
It's so bad.
Oh, they've never made a good. There's still Oh my gosh! I had a visceral gut reaction to you saying that.
I knew what I said. I just looked at Jimmy.
Oh man, I watched them all too.
No, don't.
Every time you're like, Prince of Persia could be good.
No.
Oh gosh. Fingers crossed for Fallout the series.
It looks good.
It looks
series
cool.
can be good.
A series can be
maybe
good.
not. Yeah.
I'm putting my Bezos bucks on this one. I think it'll do okay. It looks
see.
good. Yeah,
I think it's still the safest to bet that it's going to be bad because most of them are. It's
Yeah.
like if you were going to bet what the weather's going to be like in Los Angeles tomorrow, it's safest to bet sunny and 70.
Yeah, sunny and 70. Yeah.
All right. Question: what lesson do you hope 2024 learns from 2023?
Chris Cox, help your employees out.
That's not a lesson they learned, I feel like. Though.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I would say, I don't know. Someone else go first.
I think a lesson is already learned, and we're showing that with the play boosters. But I'm really hoping that there's a little bit more attention paid to how game stores and how vendors can be successful in this world. I think Magic is not the game it is without game stores around the country that you can go to in any town to play.
Yeah.
I think like Friday Night Magic is so much of what Magic is, and the more difficult it is for these stores to support, I think the worse Magic gets. So I'm really hoping that play boosters solve a lot of problems for game stores, but I think that's my biggest concern about 2023 is that there's been a lot of pressure put on these small businesses, and I'm really hoping that I don't know, maybe fewer SKUs and
we can turn the ship somehow.
Yeah, can kind of help them adjust and keep Magic on their calendar, because that's a big part of it for me.
Come up with anything, Jimmy?
Yeah, I was gonna say MagicCons just keep improving. Right.
Yeah.
They've learned a ton from the first one, and I think there's still a lot to go. Maybe don't hold it in Chicago in February, but that's a little out. But I'm excited to see what improvements, because there's only 3 major MagicCons this year that have been announced. So I think that's more, again, time for them to go into the tank, figure out how to iterate and make it better. Because we've seen, a lot of the standees and those giant sculptures and stuff, we've seen them all now, right?
Yeah.
So what are they going to do to level that up and make cooler stuff happen, more experiences and stuff to make the event special?
Yeah,
I hope they just continue on the route they're on as far as card design. I think that they've been showing, a lot of, like I said, maturity and a lot of intelligence as far as the way they're going about with, powerful but narrow cards. Yeah. And they've still been able to find some interesting nooks and crannies in there that haven't been explored. And I hope that, because as long as the game is good, the rest of the stuff doesn't matter as much, right? Obviously, there'll be a lot of little things to complain about that are sort of ancillary to the game, but as long as we like playing the game, I feel like, that's what we really want. That Magic as a game sticks around and we have fun playing it.
Yeah.
So I think, they've always been pretty good at that traditionally, and I think they've particularly been good the last couple of years in regards to Commander, and I hope that continues. So
totally.
Okay.
To the listeners.
Wow,
You're
we got
still
there.
here. You did such a good job.
We're so proud of you. The last 3 people.
Bullet point 3.
Yeah.
Bullet point 2 was about 3 hours long, and then we got to bullet point 3.
What were your favorite moments from Magic in 2023? Anything we missed? And what is your favorite set or product from this year? Do we miss your commander of the year? That was definitely the toughest list to come up with, is the best commander that came out this year. There were nearly 400 of them.
Yep. And also, what are you most looking forward to next year? I want to hear.
Yeah.
Let's keep
Absolutely.
it positive.
Let's keep it
For
positive.
your 4th comment on the video.
All right, big thanks to cardkingdom.com/command. They're the best place to go to get all your Magic products, singles, anything at all. It is right after the holidays, and hopefully you got a little bit of spending money over the holidays.
Indeed.
It's a great place to go, Card Kingdom, because they have a huge inventory. They have all the cards in the versions and the conditions that you're looking for your next Commander deck. And when you order them, you put them all in the cart. They all come in one convenient package to your doorstep very quickly. I love it because you can just add a couple basic lands. Usually have to sleeve them as well, which we'll talk about in a second. And then you're ready to play. So again, cardkingdom.com/command, the best place to go to get your Magic cards.
Once those cards arrive safely in your mailbox, go to ultrapro.com/command. You could even do it beforehand. You want the sleeves there when your cards arrive.
That's true. You don't want to be waiting.
Yeah, exactly.
Do it at the same time.
In fact, what you should do is you should sign up for the Ultra Pro newsletter and pay attention to when their sales happen. Because Ultra Pro has huge sales where you're like, everything is 30% off. What is going on? I need 10 deck boxes just in case the itch to build strikes.
Which it does at any moment.
All the time. 10
like
of
lightning.
Them. I love Ultra Pro products, especially when I'm traveling. We're going to MagicCons next year. I always trust my Ultra Pro products to keep my cards safe, and they're easy to open so that when I inevitably get checked at TSA, they don't dump the cards all over the floor. Again, support your cards and your collection with ultrapro.com/command.
Support your cards. I like that.
Wow.
And while you're supporting the command
While you're
zone.
supporting the show. Yeah,
That's very
what
cool.
I meant to say,
Yeah.
but it's been a
Support
long
your
time.
cards.
That's a great tagline.
Support your cards and the command zone. Zone.
Yeah.
Now, before we get to the cleanup step where we give a big thanks to our amazing team here at the Command Zone, Rachel, I noticed you had scribbled some things at the bottom of your paper.
I had scribbled. I've been here a year, and I just wanted to say thanks for watching and sticking with me. I hope it's been as fun a year for you guys as it has been for me.
You get a lot of love in the comments, Rachel.
Yeah.
And every comment is 100% well-deserved, and in fact, you deserve more.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Congratulations, Rachel. Thanks for sticking with us for a year.
Yeah.
Thanks for having
I'm surprised
me.
we didn't scare you off.
All the way to a new set.
Yeah, look at this.
Yeah.
Way to cap it off.
Yeah.
It's
Been a good year. I just wanted to say that was a big thing in 2023 for me. So.
Aw, thanks, Rachel. And, of course, big thanks to everyone here at the Command Zone as well. Damon Lenz, Eric Lem, Megan Yip, Gaurav Galati, Jordan Pridgeon, Jamie Block, Arthur Middlecroft, Manson Lung, Josh Murphy, Jake Bosch, Sam Waldo, Evan Limburger, Katie Cole, and Mitch Trafford. Thanks, everyone, for helping out. And thank you all for another great year with the Command Zone. Thank you, Josh, for piloting us.
And big thanks to our editors, because this is a long
It's a big one. Yeah, so give them a big shout out as well.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next year.
Goodbye.
Bye.
I can do it. I can throw the papers.
Do it, all of them.
Yeah.
Wow, that was sweet.
That was cool.
That was a good
Do it
one.
again.
Good job. Oh, God.
Thank you for your attention. For further inquiries, send an email to commandcast@rocketjump.com or ask us on Twitter @JFWong and @JoshLeeQuai. See you later, alligator.
Greetings, humans.